Nope.
Welcome to the Hump Show, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, and the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Good morning.
You're just continuing a phrase coined by someone else. I mean, you know, it's a lead-in. You know, one show leads into the next, that type of thing. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I like Amy's show, okay? I like Amy's show. I listen to it in the morning on the drive in. I listen to it in here for a little while before we get going every day. I like Amy's show. I'll tell you why. I think she does a show similar to the way that I do a show, which is it's just a game. Why you have to be mad? I love just a fun. Not everything has to be a fight all the time. Amy brings that.
She talks about pork rinds a lot. That's why you like her.
Southern recipe, pork rinds. Love a good jingle. All right. I like Amy's show a lot. I'm a fan. And that is why earlier this AM, when I heard her call it the Hump Show, I was like, well, I'm using that like immediately. That's my new favorite thing. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Happy Hump Day. Happy Wednesday to all of you. I am Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo on the other side of the metaphorical glass. This AM.
My humps, my lovely lady humps.
Y'all didn't know y'all were getting that, did you?
Sorry, I stumbled a little. My flow is usually better, but other flow is happening right now. So, yeah.
Lonzo's getting beat up right now. I'm
not the only one. There was so much sneezing in the hallway yesterday. The rain stirred something up, or, you know, someone decided to pump something into the atmosphere to get us all sick.
He's fighting through it. All right. He's fighting through it. We're gonna get him there, but he's fighting through it. We have got a show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a lot to get into.
Do you know what you just said?
Ladies and gentlemen?
Ladies and gentlemen?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, because it sounds like you're saying ladies and gentlemen.
If we're lucky. If we're lucky. Don't turn me into that guy. It is 6 o'clock in the morning. It is not time for my degeneracy yet. I try to save that till at least 7:30.
You turned yourself into that guy, and I'm turning that into a promo.
Have at. We got a lot to get to today. It is, of course, NFL Wild Card Weekend. So we are going to start talking about the wild carding that is going on this weekend. Jared Goff v. Matt Stafford. A lot has been made of that showdown, and it should, because football sports as a whole needs two things to be successful. It needs, number one, talent. It needs, number two, a drama. And you're getting that here. You're getting that. And I can't wait. So we're going to talk about that later in the program. TJ Watt, unavailable for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they've got to go on the road to take on the Buffalo Bills. Good luck. Good luck. We'll talk about that showdown later in the show. Over for the Carolina Panthers, there is another head coach on the board now. There's a guy out there that I think, as of late last night, that I have to tell you, Zoe, if you can't get Jim Harbaugh, I think Mike Vrabel's the way to go. I think Mike Vrabel is the perfect guy. And a lot of folks are going to go, well, wait a minute, Rob, he just got canned because he put together back-to-back losing seasons. And that is true. I also want you to look up and down at what the Tennessee Titans are outside of Derrick Henry and tell me how many coaches would have done better. I would also like to point you to the first 4 years of Mike Vrabel's career in Tennessee. A 4-year span where he had a winning record every time. A 4-year span where he won the division twice. A 4-year span where he went to the AFC Championship game. And I would like to ask you, in what level, in what world is that not more successful than what the Panthers have done for since Tepper bought them.
All right, a couple things. First of all, he would fit well with how the team is constructed right now as a running team, and would understand it's a running team with a gritty defense. Here's the problem. I don't know that he and Tepper could get along.
That is part of the reason I would love the guy, because I think Vrabel's one of those guys that has enough success as a head coach that Tep has to go, he kind of knows what he's doing, right? It's kind of a guy who's got it done. And he's still young, and he's still got that I will rip your throat out with my teeth mentality that I feel like he would know how to put David Tepper back into his office. Dude, I have done this. I was on the field doing it. I have done it in an office. I have done it as the head coach, and I have been successful at every level of football. You have been exactly and precisely zero successful. No success, none success. So if I need to walk in and be the bad guy, say hello to the bad guy. Oh, man, because I totally ripped your clip.
Say hello to the bad guy.
Well, I mean, you recorded it for me, so
it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good.
The promo turned out all right. So
I actually really like that hire, and we are going to talk about that later on in the radio broadcast. I look very much forward to it. We are also going to talk a little bit of college football because, yes, the season is over. We now have 231 days until we get our next round of college football action. It's forever far away, but it doesn't mean we're going to stop talking about it, obviously. Hey, I was told that without a Southeastern Conference team participating, that the ratings for the national championship game were going to be embarrassing. I was told that without Southeastern Conference participation in the national championship contest, that by goodness gracious, who would care? Who would watch? No one, I tell you. Well, it beat the last 2 years running. It was fine. It didn't skyrocket through the roof, but who the hell expected it to? It turns out you were just fine. Maybe you didn't need to shoehorn an SEC team in there just to have an SEC team in there. Maybe, just maybe, people actually care about football in other parts of the country as well. Maybe, just maybe, people are more intrigued by good football than your football. Maybe, just maybe.
Or maybe, just maybe, the Big Ten championship was more popular than any other thing, because that's what we just witnessed, the Big Ten championship.
I mean, you didn't. Washington is very clearly a Pac-12 team, and by trying to take credit for them, you're being an SEC fan, Lonzo, and I won't have it.
Pac-12?
I won't have it.
What is that?
It is still a thing.
Is it?
For like 4 more months.
I was going to say, name me the 12 teams in the Pac-12.
Well, Washington is still in the Pac-12.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. As is USC and UCLA.
Okay,
and
okay.
State
So,
and Arizona and Arizona State.
When does the exit happen?
I believe at the right before the beginning of next year's fall sports.
All right. So technically, when you put in your
you got to go through the academic calendar.
When you put in your 2 weeks, you're technically still an employee, even though you quit.
Correct.
All right,
Correct.
fine.
And I'm saying you trying to take credit for what the Pac-12 built is very SEC of you, and I won't have it.
No, You're
better than that.
I just wanted to point out the fact that, people who have poo-pooed the Big Ten can now shut up. That's all.
I mean, the Big Ten won the Natty. It is what it is. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the broadcast as well. We're also going to get into the NFL draft? Question mark? Why, yes, friends.
Can't wait to see who the Panthers get with that number 1 pick.
Can't wait for round 2 of the NFL draft. No, we are going to get into round one of the NFL draft because Lonzo yesterday mistakenly described Michael Penix Jr. as an average or sub-average quarterback.
No, that was not.
Incorrectly described him as an
My perception as the first time viewing this individual was that he's overrated. And I believe I am not alone in watching him play for the first time Monday night because, West Coast.
You're just wrong. Just wrong. You watched his probably third worst game, second worst game of the year. And not
Yeah. I know she didn't look good tonight, but usually when she wears the right dress and the makeup's on, she's beautiful, man. I know you don't see it, but she's at least a 7. At least.
Have you
look like a 3 tonight, but she had a rough day and
Have you, great one? And I emphasize the great. Have you never walked out of a studio thinking about your show?
It sucks.
Not once? Never once have you walked out and gone, that was a bad show. Because I do it all the time.
By the way, I have never walked out and thought, man, this entire show sucked.
Sorry about my language.
Not on a show that was my show. Because the fact that they still give me a microphone is amazing. I have walked out of shows that I produced and participated on, not this one, and went, my God, what are we doing?
All right, so let me.
And then I got traded.
Because Lonzo is, I guess, incapable of humility. Allow me. I frequently walk out of this studio and go, that show sucked. I sucked. The segment sucked. The topic sucked. And I'm embarrassed by what I just did.
And every one of those shows, if I was on it, I could point out to you everything that you did that was great on that show. But you are dwelling on the negative. Yes, that's how you get better, because dwelling on the negative. And I have never done the best show. And I never will, because if I do the best show I've ever done, I may never do another one.
While I appreciate your commitment to being the hypothetical metaphorical,
dude, your bad days when you go running out of here and literally running out of here and you're mad for everything. I could come in that office and tell you, hey, this segment was pretty good. This segment was pretty good. You get in your head and you get mad about things, and you're better than what you think you are.
I'm not.
You're a 2-time best sports show winning and runner-up in the best dude on the radio in sports in South Carolina. You're pretty good, man. I get nothing for kissing his butt, by the way.
I don't need my butt kissed. I know I'm good. All right? I know I'm good. But knowing you're good does not prevent you from having a bad performance. And having an overall bad performance doesn't mean you don't do things well within an overall bad performance.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't listen to your bad show and go, why wasn't he talking into the mic? I don't listen to your bad show and go, why can't he complete a sentence? I can look at Michael Penix Jr. and go, that sidearm thing does not work in the NFL. That's the thing that Tim Tebow got criticized for, but no one's saying about Penix. The indecisiveness, the inability to hit an open window that's like that, which is what the NFL is. All these things that I was told this guy is, I looked at and did not see.
But what I'm saying is you are looking at, in a 15-game sample size, you were looking at literally less than 10% of the sample size and going, that's what this is. If I do 10
it's probably
shows,
more than what some people talking about it on the radio.
Maybe so.
So, I mean,
maybe so. But this show's award winning. We don't do that.
You're
We're
right.
better than that.
You're right.
So I am telling you that if you watch 15 of 15 games this year, you won't feel that way.
If I watched a second game and he was doing that, I would not watch anymore, because then I would know that's who this guy is. Let's see what he does in the combine. Let's see if suddenly, if he goes to the NFL, we find out that he's working with the quarterback coach on his delivery. That's what, if I hear that quote or I see that quote, I will send it to you 10,000 times.
I can almost guarantee you he
maybe
will,
10,001.
because
why?
why?
That's
That's what every quarterback going in the draft does.
And if they talk about his sidearm delivery and how that will not work in the NFL.
It can work in the NFL. It's not going to be great.
I'm saying, give me an example
of a sidearm quarterback
that looks like that.
Literally yours.
No.
Literally
No. His is normal. He will throw a sidearm here and there as a changeup, but that is not his normal throwing motion.
Does not have a completely over the top throwing motion. You don't have to. Just like Mahomes,
he doesn't have that lazy whatever that is. It's why. So this is your guy now. This is weird.
I'm defending all the baby QBs. All right, I'm defending them all. I am not saying the guy is going to be an elite first. I'm not even saying he's going to have a CJ Stroud rookie year.
Yeah, who does though?
Very few.
Cam Newton, maybe a couple other people. That's about it.
Very few. What I'm saying
those
is
test scores were so bad though, Rob.
The folks who watched that game and are labeling this guy a bust before he gets drafted, you are dadgummit. You are
the haters.
I was gonna say you can't blame me on that one.
No, that was me. If you're labeling this guy a bust because you watched one game against, by the way, the best defense in college football, you are out there being
the haters. They like to drink their haterade and eat their hater tots.
All right,
and that's on you.
That best defense, who I had seen play a bunch of games and saw other quarterbacks actually move on that defense. So it could be quarterbacks Kyle McCord moved the ball on that defense. Alabama moved the ball on that defense.
Jalen Milroe did not move the ball on that defense.
How did it get to overtime?
Defense of Alabama. I would argue special teams blunders by Michigan, routinely giving Alabama better field position.
So there was zero quarterback completions against that.
If you think Jalen Milroe had a better game against Michigan than Michael Penix Jr. did, you're wrong. You just are. No, he didn't. They both had one of their worst games of the year against one of the best defenses in football. I don't know how you can see anything to the contrary.
So he struggled against
a great defense.
Great defense in college.
I'm glad you got
it. But when he gets to the NFL where the defenses are better than that defense, he's not going to have a problem. What rounds he go in, Rob?
The first.
No way he goes in the first round. No way.
Boo Box bets right now. Michael Penix Jr. goes first round.
Yeah, as long as there's mayonnaise involved.
I will take the mayonnaise bet because I'm not losing this. All right? I don't have to worry about it. I'm not losing.
All right, where's he going?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I'm gonna guess.
We're talking draft later, so you may have already done a mock. I don't know.
I am going, as of right now, I am gonna check Michael Penix Jr. in somewhere 10 to 17.
I thought he was an elite quarterback.
He's a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, but those usually go first, second, or third.
There's like 6 teams that are likely drafting QB in the first round tops. There's just not a lot of teams.
Okay, so those teams wouldn't trade up for a guy with that awesome delivery and take him?
No, because a lot of the teams that need to trade up don't have the capital to do it because they've already been in this spot.
You're not convincing me.
I am shocked by that revelation.
Well,
stunned by that.
There's only one person who can convince me, and
blown away,
and that's him.
All right.
If he gets to the NFL and he tears it up, I will say I was wrong because I'm wrong all the time. But I'm not going to be wrong on this.
Well, me and Zach in the chat both agree that you are incorrect.
Well, you're both wrong. There you go.
We got to take a break, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot to get into. When we come back here in just a minute, it is time. It is time, my friends. Once a year, I stand on a soapbox. Once a year, I deliver my hottest sports take. It is the take that Lonzo and I are already button heads. I might as well make it worse. It's a take that he despises. It's a take the majority of y'all despise, and it is a take I will never back down on. And this year, it involves the Kansas City Chiefs. When we come back, the single hottest sports take that I have ever made on the radio, and I make it again because it's true, and it is next right here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Smith and James.
All right, guys. One quick live read, and I'm coming right back. My hottest take ever when we come back. Oh, come on, Spur Daddy. Listen, I love Rattler. I'd roll the dice on the kid. But did you? No, man. No. I love Spence. I do. I enjoyed watching Spence, but no.
He's not paying attention to you, Zach. He just wanted your vote of approval.
To say that today's is the Pensacola Ice Flyers. This is the hometown kit. This is the first professional team that I ever worked for.
That's what you get when you back them. It takes them 10 minutes to notice you. I'm just saying.
I have to produce out the stream.
You're backing the wrong horse, okay?
Yeah, Keegan, we're betting all the unders this weekend, pal. Betting all the unders. You know why? Because that game's going to be boring as hell.
Which game would that be?
Yours. 0 degree football is not fun.
Oh, okay. So we were literally talking about 0 degrees. I was thinking something else.
Let's see. Come
on, Timmy. Where's my sports?
Y'all's game is expected to be -6 degrees with a 60% chance of snow.
Yeah.
No,
that's
not fun.
Yeah, well, did football originate in the South or in the North where there's like a lot of snow or something?
Who cares?
I mean,
it also originated with no forward pass, but we decided this is better.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Things evolve to be better.
They do. You're right. So Kansas City should get rid of Arrowhead and make a dome.
Put a roof over.
Stop it. Gosh.
Put a roof over.
This is a Florida guy talking.
No, it's not. I'm not trying to tune in.
Well,
to watch,
it is a Florida guy.
I am not trying to tune in to watch Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill combined for 250 yards of offense. That's a boring game.
So a defensive game, you don't like those?
That's not a defensive game. That's a snow game.
Well,
that's not two great defenses. That's snow.
Don't get your anger, dude.
Oh, this is a topic that fires me up.
Okay, that's weird, but that's fine. I mean, you know. Don't throw anything. There ain't no real glass over.
Hold my pen this segment, just in case.
You almost impaled me yesterday in the office. So, I mean, you know, that thing went flying.
Yeah, but that was justified and hilarious. Kansas City, Missouri, late Saturday evening, will be the home of a National Football League wild card round playoff game. Kansas City, Missouri, Saturday evening, will also see temperatures hovering around -6 degrees with a 60% chance of snow.
What's a wind chill? Do you know? Because wind chill usually makes it seem a little bit colder.
Less than -6.
Okay, probably. Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, you know, since it's going to be a field goal game, what the wind chill's like. Because you kick that ball, it's cold. It's like kicking the cinder block. It's awesome.
Dude, I could not think of a more disappointing way to have Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill play a football game, and I mean it.
You know, here's the thing, Rob. I don't know if you knew this, but Tyreek Hill used to play in Kansas City. So
he did.
So he's played in cold weather before. Now the rest of the Dolphins, I don't know, but Tyreek knows how to play in the cold.
Dude, I am simply going with this. From this point forward, by decree, every new stadium in the NFL shall be domed from now on and forever. Because cold weather football sucks, snow football sucks, rain football sucks, and it sucks the life out of the game, especially because here's what it does. It creates a situation where you've got a high-flying electric offense that is automatically put a significant disadvantage in a game like this.
You don't know how to bet this game. That's what this is about. You don't know how to bet cold weather games.
Yeah, I do. I'm betting every under. I'm betting under passing yards for both quarterbacks. I'm betting under on the points total. I'm betting every under in this game.
You know, I'm going to, you know, after I turn my mic off here in a second, I'm going to look up and see if they actually keep stats on cold weather games because I'd be curious how well Patrick Mahomes does in the cold.
Dude, this game, especially if it snows,
home field advantage.
That's why
they call it that.
Agree. It doesn't make it not suck. It doesn't make it not boring. Are there going to be games in the snow that are entertaining? Sure. But I promise you, this game is way more compelling if it's 72 and sunny than it is at -6 and snowy. It just is. From this point forward, every new NFL stadium should be obligated to be domed over, because you are sending a Miami Dolphins team that was built to be the electric offense that it is, with Jalen and Tyreek and Tua and A-Chain and Mostert and all these dudes who are dudes. They built a high-flying electric offense, and now you're going to put them in -6 degrees and snow. That's boring. Forget the fact that if you want to watch this game, you've got to go get a subscription to Peacock. Forget the fact that if you want to watch this game, you've got to
wait. After yesterday, after you were all excited about games being on Amazon Prime, you're going to complain about the Peacock thing?
No, that was not my argument. And if that's what you take away from it, then I did a bad job explaining it.
I think that's what we all took away from it.
No, that is not the argument. The argument that I had was I am more excited about there being competition with ESPN, because as long as ESPN have a monopoly on college football by owning the exclusive rights to the playoff games, then ESPN becomes the political power, a shadowy figure, the man behind the curtain who can basically start to call the shots of what they want to see, because it is more about the TV product than the game on the field, as opposed to the other way around. I don't care.
So ESPN is the Illuminati of the sports world.
Yes.
Okay.
Of college football.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I told you my tinfoil cap is tall when it comes to the college football playoffs.
By the way, projected wind 10 to 20 miles per hour.
Yay.
Yeah.
How exciting.
That's not bad.
How exciting. Texas said if Miami wanted to play in the warm weather in a playoff game, then they should have won more games. Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's that simple. That's what home field is about.
You're missing the point entirely. Do you understand? To me, going to Kansas City and playing in Arrowhead in 72 and sunny is still one of the most difficult things to do in football.
Okay, according to the internet, the Dolphins have lost 10 straight games in below 40 degrees.
Right.
So win games and you don't have to go there. That's really what it comes down to. That's what home field is about. We do not want to go to Arrowhead. It's cold. We want to stay in Miami. What do? We win some games.
No.
That's what we do.
The point is being either missed or dismissed, or a combination of both. I want to know what football team is the best at playing football, not what's the best at staying warm. I want to know what football team is the best at playing football, not what football team is the best at not fumbling because the ball's slippery. I want to know what football team is the best at playing football, not who can go out in the snow and not slide around on a frozen field. I want to know who the best football team is, not what team is prepared for weather. I want the game to be decided by football players, not snow.
There are robot football games that you could play on some system that you have, and you can control all the elements and everything, and your perfect world will happen. But in the real world, where people are not SAWFT, you play to secure home field advantage. That's why it's home field advantage.
If every stadium in the National Football League was domed over, and every game in football, hey, here's my point. Arrowhead domed over would still be stupid difficult to go into and win a game. It would still be insanely difficult to go in and win a football game. But now it is not about the football players. It's not about the football game. It's not about the fans creating home field advantage. And you want to know why I know that it's better? You want to know why I know the NFL knows it's better? Because they don't play Super Bowls in Green Bay. because they didn't play one in Minnesota until Minnesota domed over the stadium. Because the only outdoor stadiums that they play Super Bowls in are in Miami and Arizona. They don't do it in Seattle. They don't do it in New York.
You know what you
They
don't?
did it in New York one time, and then they went, no, that was a dumb idea.
You know what you don't get in Super Bowl? You know what you don't get, Rob? Do you know what you don't get? Home field advantage.
It's not about home field advantage.
Right,
it's about the game.
Because it's a Super Bowl, so you don't get home field advantage.
The NFL ran one Super Bowl in a cold weather city in February, and one Super Bowl was enough for them to go, that was dumb. The game suffered. We didn't have fun watching the football teams do football, so we're not doing it anymore.
Hey, listen, I think Super Bowl should be played in the home of the guy, the team with the best record. I think it should. I think so. If Kansas City has the best record and they go to the Super Bowl, they have a better record than the NFC representative, it should be in Arrowhead. Who cares about all these people all these corporate people are the only ones who can afford to go to a Super Bowl? Let a hometown crowd get to go to see their team play in their stadium.
All right, well, that's a whole different conversation.
It's not, you know what? Because those people will show up. And then that makes your point moot. Because
no, it doesn't make my point.
It does.
It does not. If you play a Super Bowl in Kansas City and it's snowy and gross, the game's going to be boring, and the NFL knows it, which is why they don't do that.
It's not. That's why that game between New England and was it – who was New England playing? With all the snow? Was that Pittsburgh they were playing? I can't remember. But
the Tuck Rule game was the Raiders, and that was
no. I'm talking about just this last weekend. The game was interesting because of the elements. It made it interesting. Whereas normally that game between two teams that are horrible would be like, nah. But you see all that snow and you can't help but watch to see how it affects the game, how the players can react to what's going on out of the sky. That is another element of the game. You take that out, then it might as well be basketball.
Yes.
Or anything else that you only do indoors.
Yeah, no, for sure.
People like you are the reason why they move high school games now because of rain. It's just ridiculous.
They don't move high school games because of rain. They move it because of lightning.
No,
I literally called one.
No. They do move them because of rain. If there's rain coming, because it affects the game.
High school kids and NFL players. You understand there's a wild difference in terms of the ability to take care of kids if they get hurt in a rain game versus NFL players?
Yeah.
That's not because they're going, oh, these kids are soft. They're going, if one of these
the fans are soft. That's why they move those. But
also,
by the way, if the home team gets the best record, gets to play the Super Bowl, that place will still be packed out.
Okay, then your argument is the NFL should care less about money and more about the fans, and that's an entirely separate conversation. One I'm happy to have, but the only thing that's stopping this from happening for you is the money. That's a different conversation that I'm not going down right now because it's detracting from this one. Hey,
no, this is someone who grew up in cold weather, played in cold weather, going at someone who grew up in warm weather.
It's got nothing to do with where you're from.
Yes, it does. You would have a totally different perspective if you grew up in the North. You absolutely would. Your surroundings, your environment help to shape what you think. And later on, you may change that. But if you grew up in that environment, you would think that that's okay.
Hey, Lonzo, when's Kansas City host the next Super Bowl? Oh, that's right. They can't and they won't, because when Kansas City submitted a bid for it, the NFL owner said, sure. And this is 100% accurate. If you put a roof over Arrowhead, you can have a Super Bowl. And Kansas City said no. So you don't get a Super Bowl in Kansas City. Why? Because the NFL knows that a cold weather, snowy, windy football game is a less entertaining football game than if you let the best athletes in the world go be the best athletes in the world and not the best stay warm guys in the world. You don't get a Super Bowl in Kansas City because the NFL knows that undomed weather games are boring.
I guarantee you that if our roles were reversed and I grew up in Florida and you grew up in Ohio, you would have my opinion and I would have yours. Listen, it has to do with where you grew up.
There's a lot of people.
It really does. It absolutely does.
There's a lot of people who take pride in dumb things because that's our dumb thing. I'm from Florida, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That's half my culture.
Yeah, like
right?
rubbing a rock. It's pretty.
Yes.
It's pretty dumb, but people take pride in it.
Now,
so.
I have said for years.
Sorry, Clemson, I haven't cracked on you like months.
It really has been a minute.
Yeah,
I have said
they haven't
years,
been relevant in college football. Sorry. I mean,
your thing is your thing, and absolute and entirely to hell with
The haters.
who make fun of your thing. It's your thing. Enjoy it, love it. But here's the thing: football is not your thing. Your thing might be a certain style of football or a certain game plan of football, but football, the game of football, that's everybody's thing. And your element, your belief in, your love of an aspect of the thing is not more important than everybody's love of the thing. And that's why the NFL has said, I know I'm right.
No, you're right. Our thing, our collective as football fans, it's our game, which is why it hasn't changed, it will not change, and why you're wrong.
What the hell do you mean? Football changes all the time. We change the game every year. The game changes.
We're talking about weather. I mean, you can take it down a different direction, but we're talking about weather and cold weather games and sloppy games. People love those. Not necessarily the people playing it, but quite a few people really love those.
You are correct.
You know who doesn't like them? Bettors. Bettors don't like them because they have no idea how to factor in the weather.
If you think that this is, and I will look you dead in the face.
I do think that's what this is.
If you think this is an argument from me over betting, you are wrong. You are wrong. I do not want to watch a game where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are nullified because the field is hard, wet, and slippery. A game where Tua Tagovailoa throwing the deep ball is nullified because the ball's wet and it's rainy or snowy and the wind's blowing 90 degrees. I want to see if Tua and Tyreek can bomb the Chiefs to death, or if the Chiefs and Chris Jones can take that away from them. That's football being played as opposed to football responding to the weather.
Maybe it's just an age difference between us, but I don't think so. I really don't get your take. I don't. It's I mean, it's soft. It just is.
Zach said Colts won their Super Bowl in a downpour in Miami, and it was good. It didn't detract from anything. Yes, it did, Zach. That game was a slog fest.
Rob couldn't see real well. He wants to be able to see the field. The rain was getting in the way.
Yes. How are you saying that like it's not true? It was less of
you are,
game.
And my memory is going as I get older. You are the only one I've ever heard this emotional, and maybe the only one I've ever heard with this take, period.
Once again,
islands can be awesome if you decorate them good.
I'm the only one who has a problem. Again, when is Kansas City host one of the greatest NFL stadiums in the league?
Your argument doesn't.
One of the greatest communities in the league.
Work.
When are you hosting a Super Bowl?
Doesn't work.
You're not. Why aren't you hosting a Super Bowl? Because the NFL said no roof, no Super Bowl. What do you mean it doesn't work? That's literally the argument. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
No, Wesley, it shouldn't end the conversation. I am right in this. There are more people on my side than there are on your guys' side. I have spoken.
I have spoken. Jeez, Lonzo.
It's a Mandalorian quote, Rob. Yeah, Keegan, because polls are an accurate depiction of what's going on. The only way I would put up a poll is if I put up a poll, because I will word it in a fair way, not direct it in a way that Rob will win every time, which he's really good at, by the way, at the poll thing.
It's that's absolutely
exactly, Zach. Exactly.
Good for them. They overcame. And maybe if it was sunny and not cold, the Colts would have won by 90. Good. They built the football
field
team to
advantage. You want to get rid of home field advantage. That's
I don't.
Just
that's a dumb thing to say.
That's exactly what you did.
No,
dude, that's
not.
what you're saying. It is what you're saying.
You to still have the home field advantage that your fans can create within the stadium. You don't have a home field advantage. You have a weather advantage.
Which is a home field advantage.
No, it's a weather advantage.
It's a home field advantage. You can't predict the weather. It could be sunny and 50 come Saturday. We can't go, well, we can project, but we don't know exactly what the weather is going to be like a year from now. Thank you for not saying okay boomer, because it doesn't apply.
No, it doesn't.
Because I'm a Gen X. So there. Stinking millennial. You made my head hurt. I quit.
Good.
I quit. I'm going to go home. Oh, man. Did I see I'm typing like Cam Newton? I got to fix that.
Watching football in snow is fun for like 10 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious. How old are you, Wesley? I'm wondering if you're about Rob's age, because I think that may come into play. And also, did you grow up here in South Carolina where it's warm most of the time? There are a lot of things we can factor in. So everyone in the North who thinks that's on my side, they're all wrong.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
I will fight the whole state of Ohio.
All right. My representative will be Stipe Miocic.
Is he from Ohio?
Yes.
Really?
He's a firefighter, I think, in Cleveland. So, I mean, that's my guy. You got plenty of sunny Florida guys that you can throw up there.
For fighters out of Florida.
You're not. You can put up Jorge. I know there's a weight difference, but he used to have he still has the BMF belt probably. So I don't know. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But I'm guessing he might be willing to back down a little bit, depending on who the rep is. Stipe, take your head off, dude. Just saying. And just about every good wrestler there is from Ohio. So, I mean, you can name a ton of them. Starting with The Miz. I mean, John Moxley. Johnny Gargano. You might be able to handle Johnny Gargano.
I could probably take Gargano.
Yeah, he probably could. Although he's quick and wiry. Thank you, Keegan. I don't know what side you're actually on. I think you're just enjoying the argument.
First off, I can end this with one representative from the state of Florida. The tribal chief hails from Pensacola, Florida.
He does. And wrestles like once every 4 months. Good for him, I guess.
The entire gun club is from Florida. We got all the guns.
There you go.
The whole gun club.
The entire arsenal. Okay.
All right, I got to tell you, we might play this game on the air later, Lonzo. I'm not going to lie. We were having a conversation during the break there because I said on the stream that I will fight the entire state of Ohio. All right? And I will. I ain't afraid. I ain't scared.
Stipe's a large, fast man.
Then it devolved into Zoe and I throwing out different fighters from the two states that we are representing here. And then it devolved into, as most things do, us throwing out different professional wrestlers from our two home states. And now I kind of want, we may do, you know what? We might do this off the air. In fact, we are going to do this off the air. We are going to draft a Survivor Series team from Ohio and from Florida.
All right. So do they have to, is this people still in the game or historically?
Anybody historically in their prime, and you get them in their prime. A 5-man.
Because I think Andre the Giant's from Ohio.
I mean, that's fine. Hulk Hogan is from Florida.
Andre the Giant is from France,
body
dude.
Slammed.
That's
joking. Right. He is. What's wrong with me? He once body slammed him in the Silver Dome, brother. All right. Dome the stadium's over. Even the NFL knows that whether football is bad football. If they didn't, Green Bay, the single most illustrious football stadium in America, Lambeau Field, would host a Super Bowl every few years. It doesn't. You know where they keep sending them? New Orleans, Louisiana, Miami, Florida, Glendale, Arizona, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas. They won't even put them in Charlotte just in case it gets a little chilly in late January, early February. Again, you can disagree with me, but the NFL itself agrees with me. They know better. They know better. And by the way, I wouldn't be shocked if we find a memo down the line that they started getting cautious about open air Southern stadiums because of what happened in that Colts-Bears Super Bowl, with the rain coming down to the point that the TV product suffered because of it. I don't have a 4K TV to watch blurry Peyton Manning run around like he's a Bigfoot with a football. I want crystal clear Peyton's forehead. All right? I want 75 inches of Pepe's forehead.
I'm done with this argument. I'm looking up Ohio wrestlers. You're going down.
See, I distracted him. All right. So that's it. That's the hottest take. From this point forward, you throw the games under domes. And I know I'm right because the NF freaking L agrees with me.
All right. I don't know if you're off your soapbox or not. I'm curious when this is going to take place, when how you feel football should be. How many years from now will it be to where every stadium is domed and there are no more weather games?
Look, I make it real easy. When a new stadium goes up, it's domed. I'm not saying you got to go throw a roof. You can.
No. I want you to project when your utopia is going to take place.
I don't know, because we are also at an interesting point in American sports history where owners are asking for funding for new stadiums, and for the first time in history, cities are telling them no. Cities are going, you are a multi-billionaire. Buy your own damn stadium. We're not buying it for you. And I got to tell you, I wouldn't be shocked in the next decade if we don't have another 3, 4 teams, 5 teams move across sports like the Oakland A's right now, because cities start saying, no, we don't have the budget to just give you a new stadium, which, by the way, they have done study after study that have proven that new stadiums take decades to pump the amount of money that they cost back into a local economy. The overwhelming majority of money made by a stadium goes to the people who own it and operate it, not the local community. And it's not, that's known now. And so a lot of cities are saying, no, we're going to start having more owners get told, no, we're going to have teams move. And if it gets to the point that is, and this won't happen, but if it got to a point where a league started saying, hey, look, we're going to dome over every stadium we build from now on, they're going to get more expensive. But as has been pointed out, we have also reached a point that architecture's out of this world. If Kansas City wants to throw even a retractable roof, you know what? I would compromise with you. Retractable roofs on every stadium.
No compromise.
Retractable roofs. That way.
We are steadfast in our opinion. And we are right.
We are Venom. You can leave it open for regular season games. You got to close it in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. I'd be fine with that. I'm good with that. I don't like it. I don't love it.
So all the things that help you secure home field, you take those away when the playoffs happen.
You still get home field.
No,
it is your home field.
So you lose your advantage once you
are playing
gain
on a field that is home. That is home field.
Hey, man, that don't make no sense.
It makes perfect sense, which is why the NF bleeping L agrees with me. It's me, 7 other people, and Roger Goodell. Do you understand how weird it has to be for me to be on the same side of an argument as Roger bleeping Goodell?
By the way, it's how you're forming this argument. But if you go ask, I don't want to sound like Porky Pig, but if you go ask Roger Goodell about home field advantage, he's going to be on my side, and he's going to talk about the weather games.
No, he's
Yeah,
not.
absolutely.
If he was,
get him on the phone, Rob.
Green Bay would
Get him
have
on,
a
get him on the
Super
phone,
Bowl.
Rob. Why aren't you getting him on the phone, Rob?
I told you I would bring Roger Goodell on this show. You're the one who's told me you'd get up and walk out of the studio if I did.
No, not him. You said that. You
No,
said.
I said I'd call him a clown on the air. You said if you do that, I'm leaving the studio.
All right, you're right. I probably
know.
did. It's probably, it's because I'm looking at the clock and I can't think of anything other than that we're running late.
Oh, you mean it's time for a Sports Flash?
Welcome into the Sports Flash. No, I can't do that. Black Monday, I could. Came late for one head coach. The Tennessee Titans have fired Mike Vrabel after back-to-back losing seasons. Vrabel opened his regime with 4 consecutive winning seasons, including a pair of divisional titles in 2020 and 2021, the year he was named Coach of the Year. He finishes in Nashville with a record of 54-45, 54-45, and an AFC Championship game loss. The South Carolina men's basketball team suffered its second loss last night. Alabama knocked off the Gamecocks 74-47 in Tuscaloosa after leading South Carolina by just 1 at halftime. The Gamecocks went cold from the floor down the stretch and ended the game just 17 of 55 for 30%. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as Furman Paladin's basketball team takes on the Citadel right here on your home for Furman Paladin Sports, The Fan, Upstate. I don't hate Goodell, Zach. I think people hate Goodell because it's popular to hate Goodell. And much like what Vince McMahon did with Roman Reigns, Goodell has been able to turn those boos into something other than what they were meant to be. He has stolen the ire, the vitriol, and made it into a cool thing, to the point where people boo now not because they hate him, but because they want to be like everybody else next to them. It's the power of the mass mind. And I didn't stop speaking just because Rob walked in the room, because I was done talking. Plus, he doesn't notice me when I'm talking half the time anyway. So
I noticed sometimes it just doesn't register.
Yeah, well, it's because it's such a low thing, especially when I'm having a sinus thing.
Real quiet when you're not on the air.
I know. I do not project as much when I'm off the air. The paparazzi have me fearful, and when they recognize the voice and they come up and they mob you, sometimes you just want to eat in peace. I need a peaceful hour. My head can't take all that, man. You're just trying to kill me. That's what you're doing. You just want me to die over here. I hope I don't die, because that would suck for you for the rest of your life. That would be horrible. Once again, just trying to see if he's paying attention, but he's working. Hopefully he's putting together his all Florida team, because my all Ohio team, they're pretty good. Some people in there that I didn't even realize were Ohio people. And then some people who have no idea who they are. So. Normally I would say that's a weird question, Wesley, but it's not. It's Garlington Road leading into Woodruff Road. We are like near the corner of that. Right behind that there chicken salad chick. Where all the ladies go for lunch. Oh, I probably should do that. Yeah, I should. I know this is a body wash thing, but do you like sea salt? Are you required to like sea salt because you grew up in Florida? Sorry about that,
know.
Wesley. My bad. Puerto Rico.
I feel like at the end of the day, salt is sodium chloride, right? Like it's sea salt. It's still NaCl. It's the same chemical composition. It's the same thing.
Look at you throwing out the periodic table.
I'm a huge dork. What do you want?
Science, yo.
Like you can have bigger crystals, but I don't. It's still salt.
I think they're saltier as far as like chips with sea salt on them. I think they're saltier, and maybe it's like just in your head thinking they're saltier, or in my head. I don't know.
I think some people use the same amount of salt, but because the crystals are larger.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is a texture to sea salt that is different than
maybe that's what it is.
Ground up table salt.
Yeah.
But it's the same stuff.
QC in the first break.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. It turns out, though, after the briefest bit of research during our off-the-air conversation, that there actually is a difference between sea salt and table salt. Ladies and gentlemen, the type of hard-hitting conversation that you can only get by joining us on our live stream at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, by searching and subscribing to the Fan Upstate on YouTube, or the Rob Brown Show on Twitch. Most table salt is mined from underground deposits, and it is ordinarily to some degree processed to remove other minerals, which might have an impact on the taste, and is commonly fortified with iodine, whereas sea salt, which is produced by evaporation of ocean water or water from saltwater lakes, is usually less processed than table salt and retains trace minerals that add flavor and color to the product. So there is a difference, but according to the Mayo Clinic, sea salt and table salt contain comparable amounts of sodium and chloride by weight and have the same basic nutritional value. Ladies and gentlemen, where are you getting information like this while also getting incredible sports talk for 4 hours every day? Right here and only on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. You, friends, are very welcome. Very welcome indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, you also have less than an hour until you've got to be at the office. You've got to go in. You got to punch in. You got to get to work. But then within at least a couple of hours after that, you're going to get the opportunity to sit back. You're going to get the opportunity to relax. You're going to get the opportunity to take a deep breath and talk sports with your coworkers. And that is why you need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
"Oh, wow."
Even before they take
Here we go.
Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
Oh, that was so good.
Only happens every once in a while.
So good.
I faded up too quick.
So good. It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the 3 top sports stories that you need to know before you get to work and start talking sports with your coworkers. Let us jump right in with item number 1. Wild night in college shooty hoops yesterday evening. Wild night last night in college basketball. We had ranked teams playing all around the country. We had teams fighting for prevalence all around the country, and we had some incredible results in the process. The number 1 team in the country going into last night were the Purdue Boilermakers. They were on the road against the then 12-3 Nebraska Cornhuskers. This one in Lincoln. And this one should have been a blowout. Why? Zach Edey is a gangsta. probably the best player in college basketball this year. The big man for the Boilermakers is a star, ladies and gentlemen, like a 23, 24 points per game superstar at the big man role. Last night, 15 points for Zach Edey on 6 of 10 from the floor, and the number one team in the country takes their second loss on the season. Purdue doesn't just lose to Nebraska, but Purdue got beat by Nebraska. Everything's turning up aces in Lincoln right now as the Cornhuskers put away Purdue 88-72. But that was not the only bit of big news that took place last night. There was one remaining undefeated team in college basketball as of last night. It was the number 2 ranked Houston Cougars. They are no longer the last undefeated team. The Iowa State Cyclones, 57-53 winners over the Cougs. 3 starters for Houston failed to score 7 points. They had 2 in double figures, 20 and 14 for Sharp and Sheed. Nobody off the bench was even a participant, at least according to the points column. Iowa State, on the other hand, was just shooting the ball in bunches, man, in bunches. They actually had, and this is wild, an almost identical shooting percentage to Iowa State. They were 38.3% from the floor, Houston 38%. They were 20% from 3, Houston 26%. Where was the difference? The free throw strike. 18 of 22 were the Cyclones, 8 of 12 were the Houston Cougars. Ladies and gentlemen, actually, forget you, ladies and gentlemen, cheering Utes of America. Those of you that listen to this show, check in with Uncle Rob. Let me tell you something. This, my dudes, my dudettes, is why free throws matter. If it was not for the ability to get to the stripe and then the ability to convert from the stripe, Iowa State would have lost last night. They shot 10 more free throws. They made 10 more free throws. They won the game because of it. And we're still talking college basketball because I got asked like 7 times last week, Rob, why are you not talking about the Gamecock basketball program, at least on the men's side? Rob, we are 13-1. We deserve time. Rob, you are just one of
the haters.
You got to talk about our squad. And I said last week,
you're a jinx, man. You start talking about things and then they lose.
They like to drink their haterade and eat their hater tots.
I said, hey, here's the deal. You got to put some wins on the resume that are quality wins. You had, through the first handful of weeks of the season, you had basically 2 quality opponents. You had an above average but not good Virginia Tech team, and you were on the road at a top 25 Clemson team. You beat Virginia Tech by a deuce at home. You went to Clemson, and you lost that game. I need a quality win. Where's it going to be? Well, you got pointed in the right direction with a 68-62 win over Mississippi State. And I was like, okay, welcome to the conversation. We've been talking about Brad Brownell and the Clemson Tiger basketball program. Now we're going to have to mention Lamont and the Gamecock program. 68-62 winners over an 11-2 at the time Mississippi State team, a team that was kind of in that same conversation. Another team that good record, not much on the resume to show for it. Well, last night, South Carolina had the opportunity to put a good resume victory on the line. They had to travel down to take on Nate Oates and his Alabama Crimson Tide, and the Gamecocks got the doors blown off of them, 74-47. They trailed by 1 point at halftime. It was 30-29 at the half. I stayed up and watched this game. 30-29 at the half against Alabama on the road. And I'm like, damn, this is pretty good. Michi was shooting the ball pretty well at this point. You had guys, a lot of guard play, a lot of small ball. It was kind of keeping Alabama off balance, and that's a good Alabama team. This is a good spot to be in. In fact, it was the first time this season that Alabama trailed at the half. Or excuse me, that South Carolina trailed at the half was to Alabama. And then the second half happened. Alabama outscored South Carolina in the second half 44-18. That is bad. Like, real bad. South Carolina fell apart. At the end of the first half, they were shooting around 44%. They ended the game shooting 30% from the floor. They ended the game shooting 5 of 25 for 20% from the arc. Now, you might can get away with that in a lot of games. But you better have some lockdown defense as well. You didn't have that going either. Alabama, 48% from the floor, 44% from the stripe, 77% from the free throw line. Everything went bad for the Gamecocks in the second half. You'll ask why I hadn't talked about this team. It's because I had not seen them against a quality opponent. Again, Mississippi State was a good win, but it was against a team that I now have even greater questions about as well. Because State was in the same spot. Good record, a lot of wins, couple losses, but nothing really on the resume to write home about. And then you beat them. And I went, this is good for the Gamecocks. Last night, and so that we're clear, I like Lamont Paris too. I thought it was a good hire. I think he's a motivational guy. In fact, I see him as kind of a mirror of Shane Beamer. I think the culture is being built up around that men's basketball program. I think having it connected to Don Staley's program is something that South Carolina should probably lean into more, but it's a good thing they have if they elect to use it. I thought getting Gigi Jackson to come there last year should have been a coup that announced that Carolina has arrived on the basketball scene. Don't tell me you can't succeed in the Carolinas. There's multiple teams doing it. I thought it was a bit of a moment. And I still think this team's got some talent on it for sure. Johnson, Cooper. I think this team's got some talent on it. But man, last night, this team lost its mind. The wheels came off. And the minute Alabama built any sort of momentum in the second half, South Carolina just lost it and did not know how to recover. So they fall on the road at Alabama, now level at 1-1 in Southeastern Conference play. And the climb to the SEC tournament just got a lot steeper. Let's go to item number 2. Another NFL coach is on the unemployment line as Tennessee Titans fired Mike Vrabel yesterday after back-to-back losing seasons. He did have trade value for the Titans. The problem is, according to their current owner-operator, that Mike Vrabel would have had to be willing to accept a trade elsewhere. And the question mark was, who amongst the teams in the market for a head coach might Mike Vrabel have been willing to take a trade to? And we don't know what the answer to that is. So they decided, instead of even asking around the league about a trade, they're just going to fire him. So Mike Vrabel coached 6 seasons at Tennessee. In his first 4 seasons, he had 4 winning seasons. In his first 4 seasons, he had 2 divisional championships, and in his first 4 seasons, he had a trip to the AFC championship game that the Titans lost. The last 2 seasons, not as good. The last 2 seasons, the L's came, and they came in bunches, and the Titans decided to move on. Now, this is interesting. And it's interesting to me because I absolutely consider Mike Vrabel to be one of the more interesting names on the coaching market. I do not look at Tennessee and go, that is exclusively on Mike Vrabel. I think there's a lot of other problems there. I think people vastly overestimated what Ryan Tannehill is as a quarterback. I think people vastly underestimated the amount of time that a guy like Will Levis was going to need to get ready and get right to be an NFL starter. And I think they plugged him in a spot where he was destined to fail. Had some pretty good games. His first game out, he looked like a stud. But I don't blame it on Mike Vrabel. He gets some of the blame. Sure, he's the head coach. That's how it works. But I really like him. But here's the interesting part. This puts New England in a very interesting position, and it puts the other teams connected to Bill Belichick in a very interesting position. There's also another coach under the Bill Belichick coaching tree in New England right now. What is one of the few strong points of the Patriots this year? Their linebacking core. It's one of the few bright spots of that team. The linebackers coach this year is another Belichick guy as a player. Gerard Mayo is the linebacker coach there in New England. Gerard Mayo is picking up steam right now as a potential head coaching candidate of the mold of Mike Vrabel. And what's interesting about this is that there are short reports, but reports coming out that the Tennessee Titans would be interested in acquiring Gerard Mayo from the Patriots to make him their head coach. Why? Because they see what DeMeco Ryans is doing in Houston right now. And now all of the sudden, people are beginning with the success of Mike Vrabel, the success of DeMeco Ryans. People are starting to be more interested, not in former players turning coaches, but of young, aggressive, defensive former players turning head coach. Gerard Mayo is one of those guys. And the thought is, the reason you're not hearing anything out of New England was because New England was waiting to see if Mike Vrabel would be canned, because New England might feel that Mike Vrabel would be a perfect guy to replace Hoodie with in New England, which means you get rid of Hoodie or you trade Hoodie, you bring in Mike Vrabel, you get compensation for Hoodie somewhere, and you get the next guy in New England. If that is the case, Bill Belichick, who I already do not want to end up in Charlotte, becomes dramatically less likely to do so because you don't have the resources to trade for him. I actually think this story does connect to the Panthers, and I think it removes you. If you're one of the 9 Panthers fans that wanted Hoodie, this removes you from that conversation in my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion. Let's get in before we take a break. Item number 3. Y'all might not care about this. I do. The Miami Heat have agreed to an 8-year contract extension worth more than $120 million for their superstar head coach, Eric Spoelstra. Spo, 53 years old, one of the most respected and successful coaches in pro sports, has a new deal that reflects just that. Spo has won 2 rings with the Heat. He has reached the NBA Finals 6 times with the Heat. He is now the NBA's 2nd highest paid coach on an annual basis. The only guy making more cheddar is Greg Popovich, making $19 million per season. But it is the length of Spo's deal that separates him from the rest of his peers. Miami tied for 5th in the EC with a 21-15 record despite a revolving door of injuries to key players all year long. Spoelstra has been at the helm for Miami for 15 seasons after the season of 2008 when he replaced Pat Riley. Since then, Spoelstra has become one of 14 coaches in NBA history to win 2 titles. As an 8 seed last season, the Heat made a remarkable run through the Eastern Conference playoffs. They lost to, of course, the Denver Nuggets in the Eastern Conference Finals, the team that would go on to win the NBA championship. He trails only Popovich in terms of tenure with a single franchise. He is 3rd behind Pops and Rick Carlisle amongst active coaches in games won with 725 victories, ranks him 19th in NBA history. He is 5th all time with 109 playoff victories, trailing only Pops amongst active coaches. Here's why I'm telling you about this. Y'all know one of the things I very much like to do on the show is I like to point out when we are witnessing greatness in sports, because I like to make sure that people have the opportunity to and do not miss the opportunity to watch history. Erik Spoelstra, as far as I'm concerned, Erik Spoelstra is probably the most underappreciated thing happening in the NBA right now, right? I've talked about LeBron. If you're not watching LeBron and what LeBron's doing right now, I don't know what to tell you. That guy's been to 10 finals. And at 39 years old, the oldest active player in the NBA, he is still the number 1 vote getter to be an all-star. But that's not under the radar. There are some guys I think are flying under the radar. He's hurt now, but Tyrese Halliburton is one of those guys. There are guys that are flying under the radar right now in terms of SGA. There's some great players out there. Erik Spoelstra, I rarely hear about Erik Spoelstra. I rarely hear about Espo, and now he's out here finally getting compensated for who and what he is to the league. And I want Miami to know, if nobody else does, I appreciate that. I appreciate you rewarding a guy who has fought through adversity after adversity with the Miami Heat. You are giving him his due, and I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, I was told that without a Southeastern Conference team involved in the championship game, that America was going to be disappointed. America was not going to tune in. Well, the television ratings for the 2023 National Championship game have dropped. So, did America care? I'll tell you when we come back. I'm Rob Brown. He's Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, quick live read right here. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere, y'all.
where it used to be. Yep, that's what I thought. Yep, just a bunch of video and pictures. Oh, no, there's a picture of her with Sonya Deville working out.
Well, there is no shame in Mandy's game.
I think people just really like saying puka.
I do.
It's a fun word, or name, rather. That's weird. Eddie Kingston on a morning talk show. TV.
Who?
Eddie Kingston. I'm trying to project. I just don't
I
have
tell
a
you,
whole
I
lot.
would do that interview. I also think it would be one of the tougher interviews to do.
Wow, I mentioned the sausage, and now I just have a bunch of people making sausage on my Twitter feed.
You always want to know how the sausage is made.
No, let's do like made the sausage in like a circle and then put the egg in the middle. That looks pretty cool. And then you cut out the circle like a donut and then put the egg in the middle. Yes, sausage really is a circle. But
And away we go, my friends. The Rob Brown Show is back here on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. How do you do, Upstate South Carolina? Hello, America. What's up, world? Great to be with you, Rob and Lonzo with you here on a beautiful Upstate Wednesday morning. Man, that rain got gnarly yesterday. Hope everybody made it through safe and sound and okie dokie. I was told that the national championship game, without a Southeastern Conference team in it, was going to be abysmal. It was going to be boring. It was going to be unwatchable. How, pray tell, would all of us be entertained, engaged, and enjoy a game for all of the chips without a Southeastern Conference team in it? Welp. ESPN said Tuesday that the Wolverines' 34-13 win over the Huskies averaged just over 25 million viewers and was the most watched national title game since LSU took down Clemson in January of 2020. Monday night's game drew almost 8 million more viewers than Georgia's win over TCU a season ago. Last season's title game was the least watched national championship game since the BCS era, of 1999. Now, they blamed it on the fact that game was well over at halftime. The domination was in play, and because of the fact that it is on a weekday night, a lot of y'all went to bed. The Bulldogs led the Horned Frogs 38-7 at the half, and a lot of people would have turned the channel and never come back. This year, the game was very much not over at the half. In fact, it was a 7-point game with the team in the deficit position getting the football to begin the second half. Now, of course, it didn't work out the overly dramatic way that I think most of us wished that it would have, with Washington coming out, tying that game, grabbing the momentum. Yeah, that would have been fantastic, but the drama was there. The potential for the drama was there. And because the potential for the drama was there, people cared. It turned out, ladies and gentlemen, it turns out that people just want good football. It turns out that football fans just want to see good football. It turns out that while I'm sure there is a very large contingent of the it just means more crowd that is going to say, if it ain't the SEC, it ain't for me. and not tune into a game that featured a Big Ten team versus a Pac-12 team. But it also turns out that America still cared. America still watched. America elevated that over a game last year, which contained a very good Southeastern Conference champion in Georgia. And maybe last year would have been closer to this year if Georgia did not dominate TCU in the Natty or in the first half of the Natty, if we're calling it what it is. But I was told specifically that without the Southeastern Conference, nobody cared. Nobody cared about Washington. Nobody cared about Michigan. Forgot who played for a second. Nobody cared about the Big Ten and the Pac-12. We only care about the Southeastern Conference. And it turns out that that was entirely and unequivocally wrong. We did. Because we care about good football. And if it happens to come out of the SEC, great. And I will even go so far as to acknowledge the SEC probably creates more good football than other conferences do. I'm not going to argue that that is true. Here's what I am saying. Because it produces more does not mean that it has a monopoly on it. Now, I can throw my tinfoil cap back on for just a minute, should I elect to do so. And I do. I believe there is a reason that Alabama as a one-loss team got the bid, that Texas as a one-loss team got the bid. I believe that the folks that made the decision were either enlightened to the fact that or already knew that when it came down to it, they believed that involving the SEC and involving a school with a bigger brand would create more compelling television. Here's the reality. The reality is not a lot of people believed in Washington. Not a lot of people believed that the Huskies were capable of competing. Not a lot of people believed that the Huskies should have been there. But both one-loss teams took an L in the semi. And I know a lot of you are already firing up the phone to text us at 71307 and go, Rob, you're an idiot. Florida State would not have competed. My dude, I don't know if you know this or not, but there is a way we could have found out. Are you telling me that you believe a Florida State team with a top 10 ranked run defense would not have put up a better fight against Michigan than the 121st ranked run defense, a defense that gave up over 300 rushing yards? You think a top 10 rushing defense would not have been able to slow that down a little bit? Hey, by the way, I was told, based on the elimination of Florida State, you have to have elite quarterback play to win a championship. Would anybody here use the word elite to describe J.J. McCarthy in that national championship game? Against a bad Washington defense, by the way. Would anybody say J.J. McCarthy's performance was elite in either of the two games?
When he says here, he means collectively everyone watching or
you.
listening, because we know I'm not going to say that. So.
In the audience of millions and millions of the Rob Brown Armada around the world, would any of you tell me that in either game against Alabama or Washington, games in which both defenses they played were stacking the box to take the run game, would either one of you tell me that J.J. McCarthy was elite? Now, I am not trying to make the argument that Tate Rodemaker would have come in and dazzled anybody. What I am saying,
who?
The quarterback for Florida State, who should have been playing in a playoff game.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is if you eliminate Jordan Travis and you tell me that if you're telling me Tate Rodemaker couldn't have done what J.J. McCarthy did in both games, I'm saying you are wrong.
If he was playing
wrong.
on a national championship team like J.J. McCarthy was, maybe.
If I gave Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Trey Benson, and Jaheim Bell the opportunity to carry Tate Rodemaker, yes, I believe Tate Rodemaker would have performed at a level equal to J.J. McCarthy. I'm not saying he would have outperformed J.J. McCarthy. I'm saying Tate Rodemaker, with those guys, could have done in that game what J.J. McCarthy did in the Washington game. Now, they would have caught Alabama. They'd have caught Michigan out of the break. And I will tell you, Michigan would have been probably a 7.5, maybe 9.5 point dog to Michigan. But what I am also saying is I despise the fact that the imaginary games we play in our head are more important than the games that took place on the field. Now, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Let me circle back around to the original conversation. Because as Lonzo said, and he is correct, and I acknowledge that this is going to be something that I'm going to get in trouble with for the remainder of my days. I am always going to carry a grudge about this season. Has nothing to do with the fact that FSU is the first team that I professionally covered. That's what it's going to be accused of. Nothing to do with it. I would carry this weight if it was Clemson or South Carolina or anybody else from the Power Five in the same position, just like I do for the Auburn Tigers of 2014. I still have a grudge. I also recognize that the pool of people upset about this is basically null already. Lonzo said it, and he was right. I told him he was right when he said it. When the national championship game gets here, nobody will care anymore. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Texas said Tate transferred to Southern Miss. It would have been their third string quarterback. Do you think he would have transferred to Southern Miss if he was going to play in a playoff game for Florida State? Do you think he'd have transferred, or do you think he would have played and waited until the next transfer portal window opened up and went then? He'd have been playing, Texter. He wouldn't have transferred and skipped a playoff game for it. I think only one guy between all four teams did that. Texas's backup quarterback. So, blah, blah, blah. Put that aside because, again, I know that I'm the only one who cared about that. I know I'm the only one who care. But I will circle back around to the initial point. I was told that without the SEC involved, the national championship game was going to suffer. The ratings were going to be down. People weren't going to be interested. They weren't going to care. My dude, they did. They did. They watched. In fact, more people watched it than last year. More people watched it than 2 years ago. More people watched it than any other season since Clemson v. LSU of the 2019 season. It was just fine. It turns out we just want good football. It turns out we all want our team there, but at the end of the day, we just want good football. We don't particularly care where it comes from. We just want good ball. And I'm happy with at least that. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, got a few more things I want to run through as we run through the Money Hour. I do want to say one thing about the whole FBI talking to the CFP story. If you haven't heard this one yet, it's a doozy. And those same people who were just going, yeah, Rob, get him, about the FSU thing, some of them are going to be real mad at me when we come back. I'm Rob Brown. He's the Great One Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
By the way, Corey, I just looked up the 2023 quarterback stats because I was curious about Penix, and he's not like on the top 17, but Spencer Rattler's at number 7. So I get the argument that was made earlier by Spur Daddy. I think that he'd take Spencer Rattler over Michael Penix Jr. I thought after your praise of this quarterback, he would statistically be relevant. No, this is season. stats. He is nowhere on the list that I'm looking at.
What's that?
Passing.
Right. What? I'm being told we may need to check this. I think yesterday's just right.
Starting to see some delays, some congestion around I-85 both sides, right around Pelham Road. Nothing blocking traffic, just a little bit congested. Also some flooding on Pitt Street between Mayfield Street and Martin Street, both sides of the roadway. Got a little bit of water in there. Also crash on 123 at Fish Trap Road. And we've got a minor wreck reported along Highway 29 from Zion Hill Road. From the new South 98 WRD Traffic Center, I'm Lori Houston on the Fan, upstate. We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain. What do you know speak Spanish? So we started using Vrabel. And started learning Spanish fast.
With Vrabel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks. Vrabel's conversational method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Vrabel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres? ¿De dónde eres?
I'm Tony DeZeri with your sports update on the Fan Upstate. The NFL playoffs this weekend, 2 games lined up for Saturday. The Cleveland Browns, who went 11-6 this past season, will be in Houston to take on the Texans, who are led by rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud. Texans winning the AFC South. The Miami Dolphins, they'll head to Kansas City Saturday night to take on the Chiefs. Kansas City is the defending AFC champions. The Steelers, who squeaked in with the final spot in the AFC wildcard race, will head to Buffalo on Sunday to take on the Bills, while the Green Bay Packers, who got the final spot in the NFC wildcard race, head to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, who are 8-0 at AT&T Stadium. The Rams and Matt Stafford going up against his former team, the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff going up against his former team in the Rams. And the Philadelphia Eagles will be in Tampa Bay on Monday night.
The battle here would last just 2 days, but it was the bloodiest battle of the Civil War up to that point, with combined casualties of over 24,000 men. Neither side was prepared for such devastation, and afterwards,
I'm Tony DeZeri with your sports update on the Fan Upstate. College basketball, Furman hosting the Citadel on Wednesday night as the Paladins will be looking to snap a 3-game losing skid. They fell to Chattanooga on Saturday, now 6-9 on the season, while the Clemson Tigers are back in action Saturday in Blacksburg against Virginia Tech. Clemson fell to number 8.
Okay, he didn't say tonight, but so far I don't hear anything wrong with it, other than not saying tonight.
South Carolina will be in Tuscaloosa. They'll face Alabama tonight.
That's yesterday.
All right.
It's January again, and that means we're all rethinking our food choices. Daily Harvest makes sticking to your goals super simple with their chef-crafted, frozen, ready-made meals delivered right to your door. From mouth-watering
Upset predictions for Wild Card Weekend. I would say I've wanted to pick Miami over Kansas City, but they can't win in that cold weather, I don't think. LA can upset Detroit. It is in Tampa, but I think Tampa can upset Philly. Those would be the 2 I lean on.
I'm Tony DeZeri with your sports update on the Fan Upstate. The NFL playoffs this weekend, 2 games lined up for.
Say Cleveland taking down Houston. See, that's not an upset. That's the favorite winning. It's in Houston, but that's the case of a better wild card team. But yes, I agree with you. Cleveland can take down Houston. Plus, picking against KC is never mind. No, I shan't issue any playoff disrespect. I would never.
Absolutely disrespectful. They should lose, though, because they're playing in the cold weather, according to Rob. So there's that.
I'm Tony DeZeri with your sports update on the Fan Upstate. NBA, the Charlotte Hornets will be hosting the Sacramento Kings Wednesday night, looking to snap a 2-game losing skid. Monday, they fell to the Chicago Bulls.
So is this old too, since he's saying Wednesday night,
Terry
probably?
Rozier scored 39 points in the loss. Friday, Charlotte will head out
Yes.
on a 3-game road trip. College basketball tonight, South Carolina heading to Tuscaloosa. They'll take on Alabama. The Gamecocks.
All right, so one of them will work. and that until I can get new ones in.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen, wrapping up our numero dos here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. If you missed this story, I meant to get to it at the end of the show yesterday, but I just ran out of time and also have awful time management skills. The College Football Playoff Committee has apparently been in contact with the Federal Bureau of Investigation because, according to CFP Executive Director Bill Hancock, all CFP selection committee members received, and I quote, profanity-laced emails and calls, end quote, and some received threats on their homes and families. Hancock told reporters Monday from the side of the national championship game that the CFP is totally disappointed by accusations and vitriol from politicians in the state of Florida over FSU snub, including conspiracy allegations that have stoked the fires. Hancock said, quote, it's ridiculous. Every NCAA sports committee receives criticism from the teams left out. I've been doing this for 35 years now. I've seen it and understand it, but this one, I haven't seen anything like this one, end quote. Well, let me say two things. Number one, Bill, and I'm coming to the people who made the threats in a second. I want to get the lesser of the two important parts out of the way. The lesser of the two important points is this one. You've never seen anything like this before because nothing like this has ever happened before. Unprecedented situations breed unprecedented reactions. When something that has never happened before happens, people will react to it in a way they've never reacted before. Why? Because they've never had anything like that to react to. And every different situation breeds a different reaction. Leaving them out was always going to create a situation where people were angry. As I have said, like I have said many times, football is America's favorite sport. It just is. The TV ratings confirm that year after year after year after year.
America.
It's our favorite sport. Of the 100 most watched television events in the year 2023, 98 of them were football games. There was one award show and one presidential speech that cracked the top 100. The other 98 were football games. We care. And then you add in the fact that if you live a long, healthy life, a good, long, healthy life, a football season is between 3 and 5% of the entire amount of football that you get to watch in a given year. I don't know about you, but if somebody came in and stole 3 to 5% of your net worth, you'd probably be pretty upset about it. It's not a glaring total, but it's hefty in the grand scheme of things. So yes, people were always going to be upset. People were always going to be mad. If you are lucky, you get to see your team win a title. If you're lucky. If you're real lucky, you might get to see them win too. You get to see your team win more than 2 or 3 championships in your year. You had a pretty damn good run. FSU has got 3 of them. They might have gotten to 4. We'll never know. They were always going to be upset. So yes, Bill, you were going to get some bad words. It's going to happen. You're going to get some bad words. On the flip side, and let me be very clear about this. If you are the type of person who threatens to hurt another person, or worse, who threatens to hurt another person's family over a game, you're a loser. You're an idiot. You're a clown. You're a loser. And I'm not just talking about people in this situation. If you're the type of person who goes to a football game and you see somebody wearing the other team's gear and you say, I'm going to kick your ass. That's not good old-fashioned smack talk. That's just you being a butthole. That's it. That's all it is. That's just you being a loser and nothing else. Now, you want to talk smack? Talk smack. I love some good smack talk. Absolutely. Hey, your team smells like poop. Your mom's fat. Your dog's ugly. Have at it. Go bananas. I got your back. That's all fun and good. But when you start threatening violence over a football game, you're a loser. That's just it. It's the end of the conversation. If you threaten to injure, maim, or hurt, or damage someone else's property over a football team, a football team that, by the way, you're not on the team. You're a fan of the team. You're not on the team. If you do that, you're a loser. Every year, I see these stories come out where person A goes to an away game and they get beat up by the stands of person B. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure those people probably started as much as they don't. But if you are throwing hands over a football team that you are not on, you're just a loser, dude. It just is what it is, man. So, to those people who made these threats to the CFP, dude, I understand you're upset. Hell, I agree with you. I'm in your camp. You got screwed. You got screwed out of an opportunity that a lot of other fans would kill for. You got screwed out of an opportunity that a lot of college football fans will never get the chance to see. I understand. It stinks. You might, if you are lucky, get 60 good football seasons as an adult who appreciates what being a fan is. And one of the opportunities to win a title in one of those 50 or 60 seasons, if you're lucky that you get, just went by the wayside because of a bunch of suits. Surrounded by a conspiracy that actually makes a little bit of sense. I get it. But if you are calling in threats of physical harm to the people who made this decision, to their families, stop, dude. It's just football. As a great man once said, it's just a game. Why you have to be mad? Just relax, all right? It's just football. Clever segue to Lonzo doing a sports flash.
It was the cleverest I've ever heard. The South Carolina men's basketball team suffered its second loss last night. Alabama knocked off the Gamecocks 74-47 in Tuscaloosa after leading South Carolina by just one at halftime. The Gamecocks went cold from the floor down the stretch and ended the game just 17 of 55 for a 30% rate and shot 20% from deep. The loss moves South Carolina to 13-2 and 1-1 in conference. Clemson's men's basketball opened strong, but is coming off of back-to-back losses to Miami and North Carolina. They'll try to right the boat this evening when they travel to Blacksburg to take on Virginia Tech. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as the Furman Paladins basketball team takes on the Citadel right here on your home for Furman Paladin Sports. The Fan, Upstate.
Yes, James is an Eagles fan. You you guys are kind of the kings of that. Good work. Good work. Not that I doubted it would be good work, but good work.
Smith and James in the first break.
10-4. Yeah. Off we go into the third hour, ladies and gentlemen. This is the fan upstate. He is the great one, Lonzo. I am Rob Brown.
Say hello to the bad guy.
Lonzo is a superstar.
It is wonderful to be with you here on a beautiful upstate Wednesday morning. You know, you got to have a day like yesterday to appreciate a day like today. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful day across the upstate of South Carolina. A lot of sports to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about. Before we do, a random question was posed to me during the break by a buddy of mine down in Florida. One of the groups that I'm in, one of my group threads with the old fraternity brothers, and we talk about just a bunch of very, very weird stuff sometimes. And somebody asked what I think is a genuine and bona fide question that I am unaware of the answer to. Lonzo, what happened to the original Jake from State Farm? You remember?
He passed the torch. There was a commercial.
Was there?
They did the khakis commercial. They recreated it.
Yeah.
And the new Jake said something about the khakis to the old Jake, and he said they always ask that. Then after that,
right, but that's not passing the torch.
Well, they were in a commercial together, and one Jake asked a question of the other Jake, and then the other Jake has never been seen again.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Where is old Jake? What happened to old Jake? Old Jake was just working in his khakis. Some new guy walks up, asks him about the khakis. He just responds, yeah, they always ask that. And then he's what? He's excommunicated from the company? Did old Jake give up some information he wasn't supposed? What happened to old Jake?
They both were working in the call center. So old Jake was still working there. He's just.
But where is he? We have not seen him
still
since.
Working in the call center. He's just still there. He didn't get to go on the road like New Jake did. He didn't have a bunch of famous friends like New Jake does. I mean, he's just.
He might if they left him on TV. He got like one commercial, and then he just got.
Oh yeah, he had more than one commercial. Yeah, he had a couple, but not like New Jake.
Right.
Yeah.
They just went with old Jake. And then New Jake rolls in and they're like, sorry, old Jake. They discarded him like Hollywood discards actresses when they turn 40.
All right. So there's a lot of ways we could go with why New Jake is out there and old Jake is not, but I'm just going to go with New Jake is cooler. I mean, New Jake is cool. Put old Jake in the situations that New Jake is in. It doesn't work because old Jake is just a dork. Okay. New Jake is cool. So, I mean, picture old Jake at CP3's house. Doesn't work. I mean, there's just a lot of situations where picture old Jake in the office with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes or in the diner. It doesn't work.
You don't think old Jake, who was a little bit more of a sturdy fella, and Andy Reid making commercials at a burger joint wouldn't have been gold?
No.
Would have been gold.
No, old Jake just didn't have the chops, man. New Jake does.
We don't know. We'll never know. We'll never know. Last night, the South Carolina Gamecocks men's basketball program, a program that had been having a pretty good run, who had a single L on the season, just the road L to Clemson, a top 15 team at one point this season. Although Clemson is also coming off of a 2-loss streak right now as they take on Virginia Tech this evening in what I think is absolutely a get-right game. The Gamecock fans have been asking me for a hot minute, hey, Rob, why is no one talking about our Gamecock men's basketball program? And my response to that was repeatedly, hey, because you don't have the resume. You don't have a signature win. A lot of the teams that are up towards the top of the top 25, they've got a signature win in there somewhere. They grabbed a win in the Battle for Atlantis tournament or the Holiday Classic or the Honolulu Classic or whatever tournament they were playing, and they grabbed a signature win. You guys haven't done that yet. Your best win to date was Virginia Tech, who is okay. Then the Gamecocks went on the road and they beat Mississippi State. And then apparently some of the players got a little confident in themselves and said some things that upset Alabama head coach Nate Oates. And last night, after Alabama throttled the Gamecocks, outscored them 44-18 in the second half, Nate Oates went to the podium in his post-game press conference, and he said this.
They said that our guys were kind of talking. I mean, there was a lot of talking. That run they came out of the game 13, their guys were yelling at our bench for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, they made the statement the SEC isn't ready for them. Guess we'll see if the SEC is ready for them. But this SEC team was ready for them. So they were talking an awful lot during the game.
This SEC team was ready for him. Now, I watched that game last night. I sat on the couch in the bro cave watching a little college shooty hoops. They had the old YouTube TV 4 quad box going down because they're quad boxing college basketball, and it's amazing, dude. It's so good. We had Duke Pittsburgh last night. We had Purdue Nebraska last night. We had Texas A&M Auburn last night. War Eagle versus the Colt. It's pretty good night of college basketball. And what was interesting about this game is that, and as much as I don't want to agree with him, Nate Oates is right. This team was playing with some attitude last night. Now, I don't have an issue with a team playing with some attitude. In fact, I would make the argument that you almost kind of have to, right? You almost kind of have to have some attitude if you're going to play high-level college basketball, high-level basketball for any organization. You kind of got to have some attitude. I don't know that standing in front of the Alabama bench and chirping at them when they're on a 12, 14, 16, 18-point run and hammering you is necessarily what I want to see, right? It is one thing to go, we're better than you, and you know it. It's another thing to be trailing by 20, 22, 24 on the road, to be throwing up so many bricks that you could build a mansion with it, and to still be chirping at the team that is, again, throttling you right now. That concerns me. That concerns me a little bit. I get worried about that. I get worried that you don't have, and this is probably the first time I have kind of been concerned about the Lamont Paris era in Columbia. A team having some attitude is a good thing. This team had some attitude last year, and I liked it, but they were a better team. This year, not so much. And the problem I have is when you need to be dialing in on your game, that game did not need to get that out of hand last night. The first half of that game, wildly competitive. It was the first game of the season that South Carolina faced the deficit at halftime. The deficit was 1 point. That game did not need to get out of hand. But it felt to me like once Alabama started turning it on, once Alabama started picking up the pace, once they started going on a run here and there, it felt to me like the Gamecocks were more about the smack talk on the sideline than getting dialed in and focused and hammering down. They went on a run, did Alabama last night, where Aaron Estrada was hitting like right to left hand floaters in the paint. And it was almost like a skills contest. It wasn't like South Carolina was doing anything to stop it. It would even be one thing if they were taking that attitude and they were focusing it on, all right, now let's make the game physical, right? We went up and down the court with them for a half. We were down 1. That's a good Alabama team, by the way. I don't think they're worlds better than South Carolina. But instead of saying, all right, we went shot for shot with them, our shots aren't falling. Any coach worth his salt is going to tell you, if the shots aren't falling, if there is a lid on the bucket, what do? You turn it into a physical basketball game, right? You start forcing the ball into the paint. You allow the big guys, the power forwards, the centers to start playing inside-out ball. You allow them to start working high percentage shots as the majority of your shots. You start working from the outside or from the inside out until the lid comes off the basket, until you gain some momentum. Last night, they did the opposite. It's like the further they dug themselves into a hole by missing stuff, the more they tried to go out there and miss stuff. This team put up 25 threes, and a majority of them came down the stretch. And I didn't get it. Work inside out. Now, it does not help when BJ Mack's going 2 of 10. It does not help when the only guy that's hitting anything, Michi, who finished 33.33% on 6 of 18, is filling it up in the first half, and then in the back half, couldn't buy a bucket with his life savings. But when your team is shooting 30% from the floor, the answer is fewer low percentage shots, not more. I didn't get it. And while that's happening, while this team did not transition to try to change the game, they ended up getting into a back and forth, up and down the floor track meet with Bama, and Bama just did it better than them. Again, Nate Oates runs a good program in Tuscaloosa, but this is not the same basketball team that it was with Brandon Miller last year. This is not last year's Bama team. They are on a rebuild project as well. So in a game where you get into a run and Alabama is just outrunning you, instead of slowing the game down until two things happen. Number one, your shooting percentage rises. And number two, theirs falls. Instead of changing the game. And I'm not talking about late in the game where you're down 20. I'm talking about 7 minutes into the second half when it is very clear that every drop of momentum is behind the tide. Instead of changing the pace of the game, I've got South Carolina players going over and getting teed up because they're talking smack to the guys on the bench for Alabama. What are we doing here? What are we doing? You've got guys on the floor for South Carolina going over to the bench and running smack at the dudes that are on the bench. What are we doing? Sorry, what I meant to say was,
What are we doing?
Thanks, Nick. That's the mark of a big problem. Like I said, last night was the first time that I have placed the question mark next to Lamont. I like Lamont. First off, we might be the biggest two quarter zip guys in the Carolinas. I'm a quarter zip a week guy, right? More. I'm a quarter zip 2-3 times a week guy. Love a quarter zip. Lamont's a quarter zip guy. Quarter zip guys roll together. I like the team having a little edge, a little attitude. I like that there is a culture. And again, I haven't been here that long, and I'm going to be real honest with you. South Carolina basketball didn't really register anywhere I've ever broadcasted before. I liked that. There's a culture being built around it. You're bringing in Gigi, but I'm looking at it through the same lens that I'm looking at Shane in the football program. The culture building, good. The recruiting seems to be okay. You kind of got, we all knew Gigi was a one and done kind of cat, right? We all knew he was going to take off. Whether he transferred or went pro, we didn't know, but we all knew it was probably one and done. You still got to ride that wave of momentum. But when this team is getting trounced by Alabama, when this team is getting hammered by Alabama, and you got guys that instead of saying, all right, what are we going to do to change the flow of the game? What are we going to do? Are we going to pack it in defensively? Are we going to change it up, give them a different look every time down when we have the basketball instead of trying to move it around the arc and creating low percentage shots in high volume? Instead, let's create a low volume of low percent or high percentage shots. Let's try to take the lid off the basket by getting it down into the paint. Let's try to get some of their guys into foul trouble and maybe make it to where they got to start going to the bench. And instead of making Bama go to the bench by playing inside out ball and getting some of their guys in hack trouble, you go to the bench and talk smack to the guys that aren't even in the game. How's that help? There is a difference between having an attitude and being dumb. And last night, when this team got into a hole and there was no reason for this game to get out of hand. But last night, in a game where they got in a hole, instead of dialing in on basketball and utilizing that frustration to play a better role in the late second half, you're over there talking bleep to guys that aren't even in the game. You're not even running smack at the guys on the floor. You're not even running smack at the guys that are beating you. You're over there talking to the guys that still have their warm-ups on. What are we doing?
So even if someone over there on the bench says something to you, just ignore it, man, and look at the scoreboard and realize you are not playing how you need to be playing.
Yeah. Dude, I got no reason to talk boat to a guy who's not even good enough to get. You're not even good enough to get in the game, bro. Shut up. That's fine, dog. My team just put up 44.5.
But you are also expecting young men to be present in the situation and realize it's a bad look. And usually people's go-to when they're mad is to talk stuff to people.
If that is the case, you're right. If that is the case, what it tells me is South Carolina was more concerned with having, oh, look at us, we're bad, we're tough, than, oh, Alabama scored 3 fewer points in the second half than we scored in the entire game. They scored 44 in the second half. You scored 47 in the entire game.
That is when you need someone who's been on the team for a while, maybe senior leadership if you have that, or an assistant coach to go over and say, hey, man, shut up.
The problem is that is a moment, you are right. That is a moment where you've got to have somebody on the team. You've got to have a junior or a senior leader step up, call a timeout, bring the boys in the huddle and say, hey, maybe shut the hell up. Maybe dial in. Maybe let's not let them go on multiple 18, 16, 17-point runs over and over. Maybe let's focus in on this game a little bit. Instead, those guys were the ones doing it. And if those guys are the ones that are doing it, you're telling me I got a locker room I can't work with. I got a locker room I can't trust. And if that is the case, this team is in a world of trouble. A world of trouble. We got to take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. Got a few more things that I want to get to and run through. Let's talk some NFL playoffs in this hour of the show, shall we? I got asked earlier, what upsets do we see coming out of round one? I think that's a fair question. I'll give you a couple of them. Plus, Detroit, LA. Everybody is dialed in on Matt Stafford v. Jared Goff, and they should be, because that is what makes football great. We'll talk more about it when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Smith.
All right, guys, one more live read right here. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere, y'all. right, guys. Thanks for hanging on, man. Skrilla, welcome in, big dog. Good to have you, buddy. Appreciate you coming by, as always, my man.
The brightest spot and the brightest star in this Panthers season was D-lineman Derek Brown. Sunday, Brown set the NFL record for most tackles in the season by a defensive lineman. Devoured by Derek Brown. I'm really excited. Panthers interim head coach Chris Neighbors says so much of the work Brown puts in is on the seat. What a year he had. And, the one thing that the fans want to see is that's a fun part also. He's had a heck of a year. Obviously, taking his game to a different level. And, I respect about it. I'm really proud of him. Last year, Brown tied the franchise record for most tackles in a season. This year, he shattered the mark with 103 total tackles. He's listed as a first alternate for the Pro Bowl. I'm Anish Shroff with this.
Which is a crime.
Apples comparison. Michigan gets a lot more.
I'm PJ Glasser with Jacksonville. The Green Bay Packers take on the Dallas Cowboys during Wild Card Weekend. Total is at 50.5, and you can see some points in the game, especially from the home team. My favorite bet is Cowboys team total over.
You're good, brother. I just appreciate you listening in general, man. Certainly appreciate you coming by on the stream as always, but I'm just glad you are with us every day, pal. Plus, Skrilla, you can just text me. You know that.
Don't text me, won't read it.
I'll read it. I won't always respond, but I will read it. I'm not a jerk. Okay, I'm kind of a jerk.
All backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products.
All right, he'll text back the important people.
Right. That is not true. I will text back the important things.
Join the Swamp Rabbits for a season you won't forget this fall at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. Tickets on sale now at swamprabbits.com.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. This new year, make some resolutions that will improve the environment. Resolve to use less gas in your car. You can carpool to work a couple of days a week. Use public transportation like buses or trains. Combine errands to make fewer trips. And take a walk for any distances of a mile or less. And think about an electric car when looking for your next vehicle. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing?
The NFL playoffs live on Odyssey. Westwood One brings you all the action from Wild Card Weekend, streaming live on the free Odyssey app.
McCaffrey runs left, powers into the end zone, touchdown 49ers.
The excitement is contagious as teams start their journey towards the big game.
End zone, right side, it is caught. Touchdown! Who gonna call?
Listen to every game live from Westwood One. Get in the game and download the free Odyssey app today. AUDACY.
Today, flood advisory, partly sunny and breezy, high of 50.
Weather brought to you by Daily Harvest. Daily Harvest makes it easy to stick to your goals with food delivered right to your door. Visit daily-harvest.com and use code HARVEST for up to $65 off your first box.
Sponsored by Jackson Hewitt Tax Services.
Can't wait weeks for your tax refund? Then don't. At Jackson Hewitt, get money today if you're approved for a no-fee refund advance loan on a prepaid card. Book today at jacksonhewitt.com. No-fee refund advance offered to eligible clients. Application required. Closed by Republic Bank. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Coming up on a Hump Day episode, we're live on location, Ingalls Markets, Warren H. Abernathy Highway in Spartanburg. The Washington Blueprint offers a lot of hope for one school that you might care about. We reveal our upset pick contest champion, NFL playoff preview, and so much more.
Number one for real afternoon sports talk.
Offsides with Mark Ryan.
3 to 7. The Fan. Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Make the Fan Upstate a favorite.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to spend a few minutes talking NFL playoffs. It is wild card round. Sorry, super wild card round.
Well done.
Meanwhile, we got the Steelers and the Bills. We got the Dolphins and the Chiefs. We got the Browns and the Texans, the Pack and the Boys, the Rams and the Big Cats, the Eagles and the Buccaneers. I got asked earlier in the stream chat, which of course you should, frankly, participate in by going to the Fan Upstate and the Fan Upstate's Facebook page and Twitter page, or searching and subscribing to the Fan Upstate on YouTube. You can also search the Rob Brown Show on Twitch if you are a Twitcher like me. So, got asked earlier in the show, what upsets do I see happening this weekend? Well, let's start with the two that I think a lot of people are working on the assumptions / belief are upsets. Let's start with Browns-Texans. CJ Stroud, in his rookie campaign, leads the Texans to an AFC South divisional championship. Now, let's put all the cards on the table. Let's make sure we talk about the fact that the Collapsonville Jaguars had one of the worst ends to the season outside of Philadelphia. Let's point out the fact that that division, much like the NFC South, was not that good this year. They had good teams, but the division was not that good. Still, regardless of how they arrived there, they did walk out of the regular season with the AFC Southern Division crown and a playoff berth. They will be at home taking on the Cleveland Browns. Let us be, ladies and gentlemen, abundantly clear about this. The Cleveland Browns are the favorite in this game. They enter with this game hanging around a line of 3.5 points. Keep in mind, the Texans are the home team in the playoffs. They are getting 3 because of the fact that they are at the house. That means that Vegas believes that the Cleveland Browns are 3.5 points better. Let me update that information as I pull up our BetQL cheat sheet here. That line, Lonzo, is now down to 2.5, which means there's a lot of money coming in on the Houston Texans for the win. I'm not buying it yet. I'm not quite there yet. I think a lot of people are believing that at some point, the elite one, Joe Flacco, is going to come back down to earth. And I think that they are probably correct. It's a good, not great, good Texans defensive line that they are up against. The problem is the other way around. Myles Garrett and the Browns front 7 are elite. They are very good. Now, the good news is CJ Stroud has shown us, much like Bryce Young has, that when he gets out of the pocket and he's got time, he can deliver a football. The problem is the more times that he is obligated to do that, the more chances there are that he will slip up and make a mistake and throw a ball that gets tip drilled for an INT. And I suspect the Browns will do that to him. The Browns are going to be trying to beat up the pocket from one side or the other. I think you are going to see a lot of off-balance rushes out of Cleveland. We're not just going to put 4 across the line and say, let's see if our 5 can beat your 5. I think you're going to see some overloads. I think you're going to see Cleveland bringing extra pressure and bringing it all from one side of the pocket. Why? They want to flush CJ Stroud. They want to make sure that as many balls as they can possibly force CJ Stroud to throw while on the run, he does that. They do not want to give him the time to stand in the pocket and see the field. I want him moving. I want him running. I want him looking not just at where his receivers are, but I want him seeing white jerseys and brown hats running up from behind. Why do we say they're orange? White jerseys and orange hats chasing them down.
I think they're more brownish, and maybe it's turned a little more orange, but I think the original ones definitely were browner.
Oh, they used to be brown. They're orange now. And I'm tired of pretending they're not, all right? The Steelers are not black and gold. They're black and yellow. The Browns are not brown. They're orange. Okay? It's fine. It's fine.
No, it's ugly, but still.
Either way, the Texans are going to, I think, be disappointed this weekend, and that's okay because here's the deal. You're playing with house money right now. DeMeco Ryans is a Coach of the Year candidate. I don't know if he wins it, but he's a Coach of the Year candidate. This team was expected to check in last in their division. They won it. There were question marks about whether CJ was the guy. He is. We've seen it. You're playing with house money. You are probably a year to 2 years ahead of where you are supposed to be. And that does kind of intrigue me a little bit because maybe Houston comes out and goes, who the hell cares if we lose? Let's throw everything we got at this game. And maybe they just razzle-dazzle the Browns to death. But I'm not banking on it. Give me the Houston Texans to fall at home to the Cleveland Browns in round one.
You still haven't convinced me why that's going to happen.
I mean, I just gave you my reasons. If it doesn't convince you, then that's okay.
Well, it didn't. Houston's going to win this game.
Is this a because I love Ohio State University alum CJ Stroud take, or do you truly think they are overall a better team?
There are many percentages to why I'm picking this. I believe that they are a better team than Cleveland. I think Flacco is going to show who he is in the playoffs. He's been a great story. He really has, coming off the couch and doing what he's been able to do. Cleveland's defense is the real story. So if CJ Stroud can handle the defense well enough to complete some passes, they're going to win the game because I don't trust Flacco. And there's a percentage of me that absolutely roots for him because he's from Ohio State, and another percentage that roots for me because every time he does well, it shows how bad your take for Bryce Young is. So, I mean,
It's not.
Yeah, but I gave you my reasons.
That's fair. But much the same way.
But in the end, CJ Stroud is a special quarterback. He's shown that so far this year, and I think Flacco's age finally catches up with him.
We will find out. Let's keep it going.
Wait, real quick. Flacco and CJ Stroud in a shootout. Who wins? I'm talking about you take the defenses out.
Right now, today?
Because that's not what Flacco does.
If CJ Stroud had his full complement of wide receivers, CJ Stroud.
Okay.
If he hadn't lost some guys and some guys weren't banged up, like if this was both teams at their prime, I'd probably say CJ Stroud. But it's not the Browns offense that's going to win them this game. Isn't my argument.
Oh, I agree. Browns' strong point is definitely their defense.
Let us move on to the other games or at least we'll go with the games that I think there's the possibility. I don't know why the Eagles are a favorite in this game on the road at Tampa. I don't. That's going to be a good home field advantage for Tampa.
Tampa struggled against
both of their last two games.
But they struggled against the Panthers. I think that hurts them more than anything.
I agree with you. Baker Mayfield in that game against New Orleans took shots. I mean, and now I'm not talking about like turn your head back and sip some Jaeger shots. I mean, was getting beat the hell up by New Orleans. Then he went to Carolina. And there's a lot we can say about the atrocity, the war crime that was the 2023 Carolina Panthers. But, Lonzo, if there was a bright spot on that team, where was it? Derek Brown on the front four.
Derek Brown, for sure.
Derek Brown on the front four. They also were popping Baker Mayfield. He was beat up. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have recovered from last Sunday to this Sunday, or Monday, pardon me. He gets the extra day of rest, which is huge, in my opinion.
If Philadelphia loses to Tampa Bay, there needs to be some sort of investigation as to how that they could just suddenly be that bad.
They are, if I read earlier this morning correctly, one of 3 teams, either 3 or 4 teams in history to start 10-1 and finish with 11 or fewer wins. Well, they go 1-5 down the stretch, including getting hammered
It was ugly
by the Giants in the last of the season.
It wasn't like it looked like they were close. It looked bad.
Yeah, it really did. And here's the thing. I think if it was going to fix itself for the Eagles, it already would have, right? With the Buccaneers, when you ask what's wrong with the Buccaneers, I can point and I can go, Baker's banged up. They've had a ton of injuries. They've had some rollover. Don't get me wrong. Todd Bowles is not the right guy for this team in this spot in this moment, but they've been banged up, especially their quarterback, which the strength of Tampa is the wide receiver core. For the wide receiver core to be the strength, you've got to have a healthy, competent quarterback, and they have not had a healthy quarterback in 2 weeks now. I have more faith that Baker Mayfield will feel fine on Monday than I do that Nick Sirianni is going to figure out what drove this team to be 1-5 down the stretch.
By the way, I am rooting for Baker Mayfield. I hope they win just because I would like to see him be able to stop some of the people who've come at him all this time. But at the same time, the 2 teams in the Super Bowl last year have struggled, Philly and Kansas City, but you hear more of all Kansas City's going to turn it on when they get in the playoffs. You don't hear that about Philadelphia. Why?
Man, because I think there's such a head scratcher, right? Like there's such a head scratcher because it feels like any given game the Eagles come out, they could just be Philadelphia again, right? Like it's, again, I know A.J. Brown got hurt in this game. I know Jalen Hurts got hurt and pulled out of this game this past weekend. But it feels like at any given moment, the Eagles could come out, hang 42 on somebody, and we'd be like, oh, there he is. There they are. But they don't. They just keep not doing it. All right. Maybe the most storyline-driven game, and we'll come to this one more in the next segment. LA taking on Detroit, Goff v. Stafford. I think that's going to be a real good game. I think, honestly, I think the Bills are going to beat the Steelers like a drum. I really do. I like Mike Tomlin. I like what this team did to get here. I think there's been a lot of adversity. Mason Rudolph deserves all the flowers for what he's done, stepping in place of Kenny Pickett. But Josh Allen and the Bills, I think, solidified themselves in the back 4 of the Dolphins game last weekend. I think Josh Allen, and the Bills are going to roll the Steelers this weekend.
I think it'd be closer to what you think.
We'll find out. And then,
by the way, I also think the Bills win, but I don't think it's a blowout.
I think it's a blowout. Is there any point in talking? Do you have any?
What's the weather going to be like?
Probably crap. I'll look it up during the break. I'll let you know on the flip side.
Advantage Buffalo for that.
Oh, for sure.
Although it's
not as much as Miami.
You're
right.
It's cold in Pittsburgh too.
Is there any intrigue in Dallas, Green Bay? Does anybody think Dallas is not going to hang 50 on Green Bay?
There is the stigma. It's still there that Dallas cannot win in the playoffs, and this is still the playoffs. So, I mean, I definitely am going to check in. I mean, if you're an NFL fan, you're probably going to watch anyway. It's not like you have to choose between games. There's only one game on in each time slot. So,
Kansas City, Miami, not in -6 and snow, would be the most compelling game of the weekend to me. Because I am every bit as interested in Tyreek back at Kansas City in the playoffs as I am Goff and Stafford playing against each other's teams, right? I'm wildly intrigued in that game. By the way, I have not watched a lot of it, but Mike McDaniels in Hard Knocks gave a speech to the team immediately after the L last weekend. That was incredible. It was incredible. He's like, I know that this weekend was tough as to deal with, but we set the mindset to be great. Nobody else said that. Nobody believed we were going to be great. We said we were going to be great. And it's tough, but being great requires tough situations. You can't be great without going through tough situations. Man, I was ready. It was 4:15 in the morning when I listened to that, and I was ready to run through a wall.
You also can't be great if you're not great. I mean, you can believe you're great, but your record says something different.
If that game was being played in not -6 and snow, I'd be all over that game. As it stands, I think that game's going to be a snoozer, which is a damn shame. It's a shame.
Hopefully it's going to be a defensive game with a lot of running of the ball, which is amazing football.
Yes.
And I cannot wait for that.
The vaunted, illustrious, historic defenses of the Dolphins and the Chiefs.
Chiefs are their defense,
they're the best.
Their defense is ranked up
They're
there
the best.
pretty high.
And watch,
Yeah.
when Miami scores 6 points this weekend, it's going to be because Kansas City's got a great defense. And that's the only reason.
What are you doing?
Complaining about snow. That's what I'm doing. When we come back here in just a minute, one more game to talk about. It is Detroit hosting for the first time in 30 years an NFC playoff game. And who do they have coming to town? Matt Stafford, the former quarterback that could not get them there. We'll talk about that rivalry when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Kobe. All right, dudes and dudettes, thanks for hanging out. No one wants to give the Steelers credit, but here they are. I literally just gave the Steelers all the credit. The fact that not only did you reel off a winning season, but you did it with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. As far as I'm concerned, Mike Tomlin deserves Coach of the Year credit for that. The problem is Buffalo. This is not a slam on Pittsburgh. This is lifting Buffalo. I think they have gotten back to sorts.
The only possibly bad thing that would happen if the Steelers defeat Buffalo is that Kevin will disappear for 3 months. It is the playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs. Except for Tampa Bay going to the Super Bowl. I don't think that.
Tampa's not going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That would be would that be the biggest surprise? That'd be the one team that you would be completely shocked if they went to the Super Bowl out of all the ones that are in the playoffs right now. It would have to be them. I know you might say Houston, but I think Tampa would be a bigger surprise.
I don't know.
It would be kind of funny if Baker got him there when Tom Brady couldn't. I mean, that would be kind of funny, but some of us would think that was funny.
Who would be a bigger surprise, to make the Super Bowl or to win this week?
To make the Super Bowl, not to. I mean, just to make it. We've seen teams make it to the Super Bowl and get blown out, but just making it there.
I honestly think I would say Houston would be the bigger surprise to make it.
Well, if you look at expectations before the season started, yeah. But, I mean, if you look at how the teams have played during the year, I mean, come on.
Well, they were listen,
Tampa won half their games.
I agree. They both come out of crummy divisions. All right. I'm not giving either. Both the South Division on both sides was garbage.
How many people would have said Houston would have the kind of record they have?
Oh, very few.
Right, because everyone was saying it's better to go to Carolina than it is to Houston.
But we're not. I'm not saying they're a bigger surprise based on. I'm not basing it on what my preseason expectations are. I'm saying as of today, I think I'm looking at Tampa and going, all right, they've got a quarterback who has proven more than competent. They've got maybe the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver in the National Football League, a great tight end set, and a very good defensive line. The only thing, honestly, I think the only thing holding them back is Todd Bowles at this point.
I disagree, James. I think the commissioner would be okay if Houston made it because of CJ Stroud.
I agree.
Because that's a young up and coming star making good right away, and the future that he knows he'll have with him if he stays healthy.
I agree, and I think you could build a narrative around Baker making it. Right?
You could.
I think you could build a great narrative around Baker going through years of adversity, getting screwed by teams over and over, and ending up making it to the show. Do I think it would be the most compelling matchup they could create? Probably not. I promise you the NFL is itching for Baltimore, San Francisco.
I want to see Baltimore win one playoff game before I, believe any of that.
Cleveland, Detroit, the lovable loser bowl. I'm all in for it.
Oh, no, that would be an amazing Super Bowl. I mean, yeah.
I would love that. Did that guy say let's drink?
Yeah, it's only been playing since we've been on in the morning. But
That's the first time I've caught it.
But he's talking about coffee.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's mentions coffee in the liner.
Listen, I'm a mimosa
So that's the drink is the only part that you heard. Like
it just stood out to me. All right.
If
somebody says the words "let's drink," you're gonna catch my ear 99% of the time.
Except for how many months were we on mornings and that's been playing the whole time?
I got nothing for you.
Yeah,
I got nothing for you.
It's 2024. Rob is going to be more attentive. That is his New Year's resolution.
We made it 6 days into dry January. I don't think change your entire personality is going to be a thing I can pull off that easily. Sorry. Wish it was. Not banking on it. All right. We got one more game we got to talk about in Wildcard Weekend. By the way, Texter said you will rue those words, Steelers by 10. I'll tell you this, Texter, I'll take that beer bet. And I will even say I'm not even going to make you give me the points.
I don't recall them mentioning anything about alcohol.
When you tell a dude you will rue those words, that's a bet, man.
No, when I hear someone say you'll rue the day, I think you're 75 years old. That's what I think. But,
Hey, man, I'm reading the text as it came in. You will rue those words, Steelers by 10. I'm not even going to make you give me the 10. I'll go straight money line bet. Bills win at the house for a brewski. You're on. Now, there is some drama going on in this weekend. You have got the LA Rams in the wild card spot. You have got the Detroit Lions, the Kings of the North, playing at home. First time in 30 years that they find their way into a home playoff game. But the drama, the story here is obviously the quarterbacks. Matt Stafford spent a lot of time in Detroit, Michigan. Stafford was beloved in Detroit. Remember, when the LA Rams went to the Super Bowl and Matt Stafford was quarterbacking them, there were some businesses in Detroit that were selling Detroit Rams gear. You have got to make an impact on a community when one NFL city is openly rooting for another NFL team that won the Super Bowl solely because of you. On the flip side, you got Jared Goff. Remember, Matt Stafford wanted out of Detroit because he wanted a chance to win a Super Bowl while he was still semi in his prime. So he asked out of Detroit, and they gave him the out. They sent him to Los Angeles. Los Angeles did not ask Jared Goff if he wanted out. They just said, bye, Felicia. Enjoy Detroit, Michigan. Well, Jared Goff showed up, and now Jared Goff is beloved in Detroit. They are big fans of his. This is Jared Goff with the opportunity to ruin the season for the team that did not ask him if he wanted to go after he had success there. They just said, bye-bye, have a nice flight, and kicked him out. The focus here is on Matt Stafford. And that's fair. It should be. The focus is on Matt Stafford and the fact that Matt Stafford brought a team that a lot of folks thought would more than likely end up being somewhere in the top of the draft order. All he did was bring them to the playoffs in a year where nobody thought they were going to go. He got them there, and that's fine. That's a great conversation to have and be had. But man, am I interested in what Jared Goff can do in this game. Think about the end of this story for Detroit if they lose the first home playoff game in 3 decades. I was 8 years old the last time this team won the division and hosted a playoff game. 8 years old. I am now almost 40. If they lose, it is going to be the biggest air out of the balloon moment maybe in the history of Detroit sports. And there's been a lot of them. Barry retiring, Calvin retiring. There's been a lot of them for the Lions. I think there's a ton of pressure on this Detroit team, and I don't think Jared Goff's going to shy away from it. On top of that, I don't necessarily think that Jared Goff's like a big vindictive kind of guy, but if you don't think there would be a little bit of joy in that guy to end the LA Rams season, to end the LA Rams hopes for the first meaningful time since he's been a Detroit Lion, I don't know what to tell you. I like Jared Goff a lot. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to go bananas in this game. Obviously, the Rams are going to put up a ton of points. I think the Lions are too. This might be one of 2 games in the weekend I am betting on the over. Puka Nacua. As Lonzo pointed out, I just like to say it.
Everyone likes saying Puka.
Puka's the best. But give me Detroit at the house. There is too much emotionally on this game for the Lions to do anything other than come out, raise hell from the opening kick, and disappoint the Rams. Give me the Detroit Lions at home. Give me the over. That's my best bet of the weekend.
Would you be afraid to have a long drinking evening with Dan?
I think me and Dan would be good friends.
I think after he's a guy who probably pumps up and is ready to fight after a while.
Oh, for sure.
He seems like that guy. So I would think you would want to hang with him after a while.
That's the balance, though. I'm the dude who gets that guy out of the fights. That's always been my role.
Yeah, but I think when that guy wants to get into a fight, that guy gets into a fight.
You're probably not wrong. Probably not wrong. Let's take a break. When we come back here in the final hour of the show, we'll talk some more NFL. We'll talk some college football. And Draymond's back, everybody. But before we do any of that, the other guy who will punch you in the face if you upset him, Lonzo.
Be more like an elbow because I need my hands for work. Black Monday came late for one head coach. The Tennessee Titans have fired Mike Vrabel after back-to-back losing seasons. Vrabel opened his regime with 4 consecutive winning seasons, including a pair of divisional titles in 2020 and 2021, the year he was named Coach of the Year. He finishes in Nashville with a record of 54-45 and an AFC Championship game loss. The tough task of beating Buffalo on the road just got tougher for the Steelers. Yesterday, Mike Tomlin announced that Pro Bowl outside linebacker TJ Watt is out for the wild card showdown. Watt suffered a knee injury, which his brother JJ described as a grade 2 MCL sprain. We are your home for Furman Paladins basketball. Make sure you tune in tonight at 6:30 as the Paladins take on the Citadel right here on the Fan Upstate. Sorry, I'm not talking much during the breaks, but I'm saving my voice for the air because sinuses. Rain done stirring something up. They're sneezing all over the building yesterday. Hey, Rob, do you think that there are actual fish traps on Fish Trap Road?
That's a great question.
I mean, does anyone know?
Is there water on Fish Trap Road? I have, and this is true. I have built a fish trap before in a river.
To try and catch what kind of fish? Or was it specific?
In a river predominantly.
Yeah, no, I mean, was there a specific kind of fish that you were trying to catch?
Brim.
What is that?
It's just little fish.
What, to use for bait later, or?
We were camping.
Hmm?
Like primitive camping.
Primitive camping.
Yeah, it's the best.
Do you have like spears and stuff?
You can if you want. We weren't like going out trying to kill animals, but
we're trying to catch.
We
fish
really
with your
honestly
hands.
we just wanted to see if we could do it.
Did you?
Yeah, we caught a few.
Okay, cool.
We could, if we wanted to, we could have eaten that.
I've done that before, dude. That hurts. It really does. My aunt suggested it to me before an Easter play one year. Yeah, it doesn't work for me, but straight up warm salt water will dry me up for about an hour.
Really?
But it burns your eyes because you put a handful in your hand and just right up the nose. It dries your sinuses up.
I can't do it. I tried a neti pot once and I thought I was gonna die. I know I'm a wuss.
My aunt, who would tell me, "Hey, go jump on that; it won't hurt you," type of thing. She's like, "Do that." I'm like, "Okay," not thinking this is going to burn because the smart, salt, it's going to all hurt. It worked though.
Can you just sniff salt?
No,
Like Scarface?
yeah, but
But a
well,
different thing?
I mean, if you want to go put a line of salt in there and do it, I'm going to videotape it. I just want you to know that. No, I think
That's a video I want on the internet.
Yeah, I think the water helps.
I swear, guys, it's salt. I swear.
The water will help it get deeper, and it will flush other stuff out too. I don't know. Maybe it just seems more acceptable to someone rather than putting a bunch of salt in your hand. And yeah, plus, after a while, if I do that more than once in a couple hours, my nose starts bleeding, which it's already doing a little bit. So imagine putting salt in a wound. That's what it would be right now if yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know if you ever get used to that, especially the eye watering. That takes a while before. Yeah, it does work though.
Here we go with the fourth and final hour of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Rob and Alonzo with you on a lovely Upstate Wednesday. It is the Hump Show, ladies and gentlemen.
Got the Hump Show up in here. Yeah.
The Witness and Pitch Show rolls on. I'm struggling right now, man. It's all right. We only got 60 left to go. All right. And then we're off to have ourselves a lovely little afternoon.
I don't know about lovely. Probably both be asleep by 2 p.m.
Now I've got a 11:50 appointment. And then after that, yes, for sure. Then after that. All right, I got a couple of things I want to get to real quick. Earlier this week, it was announced that Draymond Green is now welcome to return to the National Basketball Association and the Golden State Warriors. You will remember that not terribly long ago, Draymond Green hit a dude in the face with a back-spinning thunder fist. You will also remember that it is not the first time that Draymond Green has punched a dude in the face. He also one time punched Jordan Poole so hard in the face, his own teammate, that he instantly teleported to Washington, D.C. for some strange reason.
It happens. That's not what you want to happen. He's also uses his feet and the other parts of his body.
He has also stomped on a dude. He has also kicked a dude. He has also put a dude in a chokehold. Let's just say that Draymond sucks.
But he has a successful podcast, so because of that, it's all right.
And not only does he have a successful podcast, but yesterday, Draymond Green got to get on a podium and speak to the media for the first time since the NBA said that he has done enough to prove that this time he really is sorry. And this time he really does understand the situation that he's in. Here's what Draymond said.
It's urgent from a professional standpoint because I wasn't hurt. At least my body wasn't hurt. My mind was hurt. My feelings was hurt. But it wasn't like some injury cost me off the floor. So it's very urgent because I've cost my team enough. I've cost this organization enough, and so it's not a time for me to just come back and be like, all right, I'm going to take my time and get back when I can. No, like you caused this yourself. And so you don't get the grace. But, there's a human component of this as well. And, you sit home and you watch these games, and as a competitor, you want to help.
So I don't know if you guys have ever been obligated to work with, or maybe you had the bad judgment to enter any sort of relationship with someone who is a bad person. But it happens to a lot of us. I would say maybe most of us. And one of the things that is a problem is that bad people have this wonderful ability. This wonderful ability to talk a lot about how they really do understand the scenario. They understand what's going on. They understand what is happening. And they're really, really sorry that they made those mistakes. And they're very sorry about the consequences of them being a bad person. And they promise that they are going to change. They promise that they're going to do better. And then, almost inevitably, within a certain amount of time, they do it again. They do the same thing, and then they get called to the carpet for doing the same thing. And wouldn't you know it, guys, but for real, seriously, this time, This time I mean it. This time I really do get it. How many second and third and fourth chances do you have to give a guy before you go, man, that's just a tiger and those stripes ain't going to change? Because at this point, for Draymond, we're on chance number 7.
The fact that we don't know, that's not good.
Yeah. The fact that I have to think about it is kind of ridiculous, if we're being honest. The fact that we are at a spot where Draymond Green has had so many physical altercations with people that I can't remember what number second chance he is on now. And you're going to let this guy back, basically having missed, 12 games? Now, 12 games is a relatively healthy suspension in the NBA. Ja Morant caught 25 for waving a handgun around the second time. Right? But this time, Lonzo, was Ja Morant's genuine second chance. So for his second chance, he caught 25 games. Now, there is an argument ongoing right now in the basketball/NBA world, because there's a lot of folks who think that the suspension of Ja Morant was too much, right? Because he didn't really hurt anybody. There wasn't a victim. He wasn't walking around a shopping mall or a Walmart waving his piece in the air like he's in a mobster movie. He was in a car with his boy, just being a kid with a gun. Stupid, but he didn't really hurt anybody. And then there's the other side of the argument that says, look, man, you can't do that. You can't. It is irresponsible. Forget even the role model argument. It is irresponsible of any person. I will never understand how people look at a dude rolling around in a car, waving his piece in the air like he just don't care, is okay, because he didn't hurt anybody, right? But the situation means he very much could have, right? So there's this whole thing going on. But regardless of what side of that fence you find yourself residing, Ja caught a 25-game suspension for not hurting anybody. At least not literally physically hurting anybody, right? He did something real dumb. He caught 25 games. It was his second chance. Ja, you got to get right. Now, obviously, we didn't know that 9 games later, he was going to end up hurting his shoulder and require season-ending shoulder surgery. That sucks, because the Grizz look like they actually might make some noise. Draymond Green is on chance like 13. Not literally. It's actually, I think, I'm doing it in my head. I think this is his 5th second chance. It's either his 5th or 6th second chance.
Well, it's not like it all happened in one season, so it's been a while.
Exactly.
You counting the LeBron thing in there?
You can count the LeBron thing, the Rudy Gobert thing, the Jordan Poole thing. I mean, again, there's your 4th second chance off the top of my head. You had the stomp. That's 5. You had the back spinning hand fist punch thing. So I really do think this is his 6th second chance.
Although I would say if you look at it, he would appear to be progressively getting more violent.
Yes. And I understand that my dude is out there trying to convince the world that I was just trying to exaggerate a foul and it was an accident. But my guy, if that was an accident, I hope you accidentally bought a Powerball ticket that night because you accidentally landed the perfect shot.
What is next in the progression? Is it a clothesline?
It's a rock bottom at midcourt,
Think
right?
so? Okay. All right.
It's a
How about an F5? Maybe he does an F5.
It's a Kevin Nash big boot, right?
Yeah, you could see that happening. You could.
All right, welcome to Phoenix, where the Suns currently lead the Warriors 35-32 in the second quarter. Chris Paul brings the ball across mid. Oh, my God, Draymond with the big boot to the face of CP3. He might be out cold, Michael.
Well, Rob, CP3 had it coming. No one really likes him, and I think you're looking at the situation wrong. Draymond was trying to get a big step so he could go up for an alley-oop, and CP3's face got in the way.
Yep. I mean, it's somewhere Corey Graves is going to grab a mic and start talking about how CP3 totally deserved it.
Yeah. I mean,
totally deserved
probably
it.
the closest I'll ever get to being heel color, but, someday maybe.
The ghost of Bobby the Brain Heenan is going to start ringing in our ears going, what a coward move from CP3.
All ham and eggers deserve a foot to the face, yes.
Dude, this guy caught what effectively turned into a 12-game suspension. A 12-game suspension, which is less than Ja Morant got for swinging his fist around and punching a dude in the face after he stomped on a dude, after he lit up his own teammate, after he choked out Rudy Gobert, and that's all within like the last calendar year. We're not even going further back, and there is further back to go, people. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. 12 games. I got other dudes out there that are, again, making stupid mistakes, Ja Morant, but catching suspensions twice as long as Draymond's 6th second chance for punching a dude in the face. What are we doing? What are we doing? By God, that man had a family. Draymond. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, I got a few more things I want to throw at you before we wrap up the radio broadcast. Talk some Carolina Panthers. There's two different things I want to bring up real quick before we get out of here. Hayden Hurst had something to say about the rookie year of one Bryce Young. I'm always going to listen to what a football player in the locker room has to say. So we'll play you that audio. And a very interesting article from Yahoo Sports in which they addressed all of the top name head coaching candidates that are available this year. And what they had to say about the Panthers might intrigue you. Hashtag verbal clickbait. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Draymond would throw one of those clotheslines where he throws his own body into it,
Yeah.
Not just to hold the arm out, but the one where the guy falls into the clothesline. That's what Draymond would do.
Why did I even click on to need that?
I mean, like I said, I think what Ja did was stupid, irresponsible. I also think that is stupid and irresponsible as it was. to some degree, I can chalk it up to real dumb kid who is young and in a world that consequences don't exist, did a real dumb thing and learned that consequences exist. I am willing to show a little grace to Ja Morant because I also was once very young and very stupid and cannot say with any level of definitiveness that at 24 years old, I might not have done the same thing, right? Was it stupid? Hell yeah, it was stupid. Does he need to know better? Yes, but knowing better is very frequently something that happens only after there are consequences to the thing that you need to know better.
Yeah,
right?
how many times? I mean, that's the second time.
So we're talking
so
about.
he shouldn't know.
Yeah.
Ja Morant should have known better after he did it the
Yeah,
first
but
time.
remember, the first time consequences were, we need you to go to counseling, right? Like there was no real punishment for that. And because there was no real consequences for that, he kind of, I mean, it was stupid. I'm willing to give a little bit of grace to Ja Morant. I think that a suspension was absolutely appropriate. What I'm saying is Draymond's suspension should not have been indefinite. It should have been indefinite with a minimum of 25. That's what I would have done if I was
I still have trouble
the
with that
commission.
word. But I will never change about that.
The word indefinite?
Indefinite. You and I have had this argument before. Indefinite to me has a finality to it. Meaning
It
that
literally is the opposite of that as a word. Indefinite means without definition.
Still sounds like it has a finality to me. Maybe I just don't know words like you do. About your superior education.
The Rob Brown Show carries on, ladies and gentlemen. Robin Lonzo with you on a beautiful upstate Wednesday morning. Let's talk some Carolina Panther football. I think regarding the 2023 season, we can all say
It sucks.
Yes, it does, Mike.
Sorry about my language.
It was awful. It was atrocious. There was a lot that went wrong. And unfortunately, there are a lot of those out there. Not that I'm naming anybody in particular, who want to say it was because the Panthers drafted Bryce Young. That's the reason. as if Tepper and Fitterer and Reich and the roster and all these other things weren't variables, factors. In the equation, they very much were.
Multiple people would not be saying said thing that you're accusing people of saying if CJ Stroud would have struggled this year. If there wasn't video out there showing them basically telling CJ he was going to be the guy and all this stuff, and then they flip-flopped.
And I would make the argument that if you are comparing the franchises, then you have to see it. If you're just going quarterback to quarterback, yeah, of course, CJ Stroud looked infinitely better. He's in the playoffs.
I remember
the franchises
last year when we were making comparisons of the franchises, and I do believe you were one of the people saying that it'd be better to go to Carolina. The future looks brighter. Houston is horrible. It's a train wreck. Who would want to go there? Now, all of a sudden, Houston is a better franchise. I just, maybe I misheard.
I think that, number one, I don't think we knew the depth with which Dave Tepper had an impact on this team.
You're right about that for sure.
Right? I think that has come to light. And I think that is one of the biggest things. I think that is one of the biggest things that has to be considered. I think that when I look at the roster at this point, as soon as we saw that the finished wide receiver room was led by a 33-year-old slant receiver, I called that shot too.
That's one of the best players on the team, by the way.
Yeah, which is bad. That's the point. Adam Thielen should not be your number one wide receiver on any team, anywhere, ever.
He shouldn't be as good as he is at his age, and he probably, was it a one-year contract? I don't know. Hopefully he gets to go somewhere where he can finish up his career with some wins.
I don't disagree. As a number 3 wide receiver, as a Z wide receiver, which is the optimum role for him. But all that aside, there was a lot of question marks about BY. Welp, noted Carolina Panther player, because he played for the Carolina Panthers this year, although he did miss some games due to a crazy injury, by the way, like a crazy injury.
It's a concussion, right?
It was a concussion that led to short-term amnesia. He forgot everything.
Which concussions can do that. I've witnessed it happen to people before.
Yeah. He got the dome rattled. He suffered and he forgot the game. He forgot everything that happened. It's wild. Anyway, Hayden Hurst, who I suspected incorrectly preseason. I will own it when I get it wrong, and I got it wrong here. I suspected that Hayden Hurst was going to be the most impactful pickup of the offseason of the Carolina Panthers. I suspected that because if you're doing it right, a tight end should be a rookie quarterback's best friend. But for a variety of reasons, he was not. Hayden Hurst, however, still a good tight end, still a good football player, and a guy who knows ball, in my opinion. Hayden Hurst was asked what went on with Bryce Young, and he said this.
I think when you have a young kid like that, again, you come from Alabama, and there's one voice of reason. So, you think they have your best interest in heart. And unfortunately, I think we in the NFL, there's a lot of people that want to maybe put their stamp on it, or, I was the one that kind of got him there. So it'll be good for Bryce to have consistency this offseason, one voice, tell him what to do, and kind of guide him in the right direction.
So is he playing ping pong while he's talking?
I don't know.
Because that's definitely ping pong in the background.
He was not playing ping pong. I actually saw the video.
Or was that beer pong? It probably has the same sound.
It's too many clicks. Ping pong is going to be.
I don't know. I'm just guessing. So. Whereas
beer pong, if you're good at it, the ball shouldn't hit the table.
Oh, I thought you had to bounce it once before.
You can.
Oh, okay.
House rules. If the house rule is if I bounce it and it goes in a cup, you got to drink 2 cups. But if I bounce it and you're playing, if the ball hits the table, you can swat it away before it gets to the cup.
When you say house rules, that's your house rules?
Yeah, that's my house rule.
Okay, all right.
My house rule is if I bounce it off the table and it goes in the cup, then you have to drink 2. If you bounce it off of anything else in the room that is not the table and it goes in a cup, you got to drink 3. But if the ball bounces off of anything, you are allowed to swat it away. You're allowed to play defense. You may not play defense if I throw straight at the cup, but if I throw straight at the cup and it goes in, you only got to drink 1. You're allowed 2 re-racks per game. That's house rules at the Casa de Love. Now, to more important things. I think he's got a real good point. Now, I think every rookie is going to have a lot going on, obviously, especially a highly touted rookie, especially a number 1 overall draft pick. They are all going to have a lot going on, for sure. But because of the fact that you had one regime of coaches, you had an offensive coordinator and a head coach who did not have the same system. You had play calling responsibility shift from Frank Reich to Thomas Brown, from Thomas Brown back to Frank Reich, from Frank Reich back to Thomas Brown. Then Chris Tabor's involved. This is why I have been saying this, to me, is on the same level as the forgiveness for Trevor Lawrence's rookie season that he earned. Because it was, as the great Britney Spears once said, toxic. Okay? Dave Tepper created a world because he had to have his all-star coaching staff, as opposed to going, let me find a coach that I believe in. Let me find a coach that I believe in. Let me find a coach that I think is the man now, dog. And go, hey, coach, who you want? Build your staff. Build your staff of guys that know your system, like your system.
But
build your staff.
He did. He gave. That was Matt Rule.
He did with. I don't even think he did with Matt Rule. Because, again, I don't think there is a decision made in the building that Dave Tepper doesn't effectively have complete and total say over. I mean, that's true of every owner in the NFL, but I mean, directly get involved. I feel like if the players went to the equipment staff and they were like, hey, we would like new socks. These are too itchy. The equipment staff would be like, yeah, we got to run it by Dave, though.
Yeah, that's an expense. So that kind of makes sense.
You're a billionaire. You can afford the damn socks, David. And that to me, that's the problem. That's the issue. That's the problem. So even though Matt Rule did, I don't know if Matt Rule did. I know Frank Reich did not. I know he did not. And I'll go one step further. If Frank Reich did, he did not. But if Frank Reich did, then Frank Reich committed professional negligence with the staff he put together. This is why you build all-star rosters to be coached by a coach and his guys. And you don't build all-star coaching staffs. Because the guy that succeeded over here succeeded because of this, and the guy that succeeded over here succeeded because of this. But when you bring a guy in to be the HC, to be the BMOC, to be the man now, dog, you got to let that guy make sure that he has got a staff underneath him that believes in him, that thinks like him, that runs his system, that knows his system inside and out. And the fact that Frank Reich was calling plays, then Thomas Brown was calling plays, then Frank Reich was calling plays, then Thomas Brown was calling plays, then Chris Tabor was involved in when all that's going down for a rook, man, if there's a 7, 8, 9, 10-year vet that's made a couple of Pro Bowls, like maybe that guy's going to be okay. Like maybe that guy can study through it. I don't care if BY is the smartest quarterback to ever step onto the football field. When the system changes day to day, mistakes happen. Every time that we catch an email from the boss that says, hey, from now on, we need you to do this, and we need you to change this, we need you to stop doing that and start doing this. There's a couple of days where where I screw up. and I don't do the thing that I'm supposed to do, or I do the thing that I'm not supposed to do, or I've got to rotate my whole system protocol of my work when I finish my show, and I screw it up. It happens. And this is a much more high-pressure job than that.
That is so hypothetical. That never happens.
It literally happens weekly, all right? It is what it is. I think everybody knows it. So when Hayden Hurst says, hey, man, look, when it comes down to it, my dude had everybody in his ear. There were too many voices. There was too much going on for him or anybody else to thrive in that scenario. C.J. Stroud had an advantage. D'Amico Ryans built his coaching staff. That was a unified front of coaches. We now know that the coaches in Carolina were not just splintered, but they were narking on each other to Dave Tepper and Scott Fitterer.
Which is not good. So what you're saying is CJ's talent is not the reason why he's doing well. It's because a coaching staff was built by a head coach.
I'm saying that is a factor in the equation.
Okay.
If, again, a quarterback success in the National Football League is not only predicated on his ability. If it was, Matt Stafford would have won a Super Bowl in Detroit, not Los Angeles. There's a reason he won in Los Angeles and never got to the playoffs in Detroit. There's a reason. It's not his talent alone. He didn't suddenly turn into a better quarterback when he got to LA. He was just in a dramatically better situation. And would you look at Detroit? They finally get rid of the old guard. They finally change out GMs and head coaches. They bring in a guy who knows the game. They allow him to build out the staff the way that he needs to build out the staff. And oh my goodness, Detroit wins the division.
Hold on. This is not me being that guy, but Detroit changes for a while, changed people out like every year. They just finally, I think they got right accidentally. I don't think they just suddenly knew what they were doing.
There's a meme that goes around on the internet of a kid who took a math test, like a college kid who took a math question. It was like, what's solve for X in this equation? And they wrote an answer at the bottom. And the teacher wrote on the paper, they were like, I have no idea how you did it. You did everything wrong, but still got the right answer. That's kind of the Detroit Lions, right? But at the end of the day, even if you guess your way into the right answer, you still got the right answer. Even if you guess your way, if you I BS'd my way into this career and I got the right answer, but I lied to get into it.
Still waiting for someone to realize I don't really belong here.
Yeah. Me too. 100%. I lied to get my first job, and here I am almost 17 years later. All right? You can get it wrong and still get it right, and I think the Lions did. But here's the thing. Once they got it right, they committed to it. Like I pointed out, if Matt Stafford, if the only thing that mattered was a QB skill, Matt Stafford would not have left Detroit, gone to LA, and won a Super Bowl. If the only thing that mattered was skill, Jared Goff would not left LA and gone to Detroit, and not until this year when everything changed, right? There's so much more that matters than just what a guy is capable of. If I ask you to make a three-point shot, Lonzo's going to make 50 out of 50 three-pointers. But if I put Shaq in the way to play defense, he's making 0 out of 50 three-pointers.
That is the most accurate thing you've said in weeks.
I say accurate stuff all the time, and it still is the most accurate thing I've said in weeks. For sure. Outside variables matter in literally everything in the universe. Short of the decomposition of radioactive elements, there is nothing that takes place that is not impacted by an outside variable, right? That includes quarterbacks in the National Football League. The Carolina Panthers front office is toxic with a capital T. Has been for years. So success at the quarterback position is not easy. And this is why I've said Tep has got to find an HC, find a GM, and then he's got to get the hell out of the way so that there is a uniform front line. There is one guy out there who says, this is what we are doing. And then he passes those marching orders to the guy behind him. And so when the quarterback coach comes out and says, here's what we need, BY knows this is what the coach wants. When the OC says, here's the plays we want you to master and run and execute, BY, he knows that's what the head coach wants. We didn't have that last year. We had an offensive coordinator who wanted to run it one way. We had a head coach who wanted to run it another way. We had a bunch of coaches that all could not get on the same page, to the point that there were coaches going to the GM to tattletale like it's high school. Hell, most of us were done tattletaling by high school, like it's middle school. If you've created a coaches network where some coaches are tattletaling on other coaches to the GM, you've created a bad situation. And I don't care if you dropped Tom Brady into that situation. Success is going to be damn near impossible. Listen, I've said for years, I think that Tom Brady carried the majority of the weight that made the New England Patriots the most successful NFL dynasty of all time. Tom Brady did it. But Tom Brady was able to thrive and succeed on the field, not because of the hoodie's X's and O's, but because the hoodie was the best at making sure that the coaching staff and the office around him was his. There was no question mark. If you coached for Hoodie, if you were a Hoodie guy, you were doing it Hoodie's way. And so there was zero chaos. It was the most vanilla, boring, undramatic franchise ever. And also the most dominant. Because outside of the situations that he created himself by deflating footballs and kissing his son on the lips, outside of situations he created himself, there was no drama that Tom Brady had to deal with. There was no coaching conflict that impacted Tom Brady's ability to play the game. There was nothing going on in the world of Tom Brady that detracted from his ability to go out there with a playbook that everybody knew and agreed on and execute it, and therefore kick everybody's ass. There was no other drama. You look at the teams that are struggling, there's almost always drama. And as much as people want to say there's drama because the team's bad, I would argue that river of boat flows both ways. There's drama because the team's bad, but in another way, the team's bad because there's drama. The Patriots, the 70s Steelers, the 90s Cowboys. When did the Cowboys fall apart? Not when they were a unified front organization behind Jimmy Johnson. They fell apart when JJ stepped in, fired JJ, and created a bunch of drama in the office. And they have never recovered because JJ is always involved in the drama. That's what he is now. The Patriots, the 90s boys, the 70s Steelers, the late 80s, 90s Niners. There was no, and again, I wasn't around for those first for the Steelers and the 40. I mean, I was around for the 49ers, but I was a kid. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong here. Were there great quantities of drama around the 49ers? I mean, maybe when they switched from one Hall of Famer to the next.
Yeah, that was a little ugly.
Yeah.
But thanks to that, I became a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it.
When they sent Montana to Kansas City to install Steve Young, there was some drama. But what did they do once they got Montana out of the building? They locked in on Steve Young. They went all in on Steve Young, and I'd say it worked out for sure. And then they just kept on. There's so much BS that happened around Charlotte that Bryce was never going to succeed this year. I don't care who you drop. I don't care if you drop Tom Brady himself in there. Success was not an option this year because of how chaotic the locker room was. I think that's what Hayden Hurst is saying here. And frankly, I think he kind of nailed it. We got to take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, got a couple more stories that I want to run through. And then, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to ask what the X is going on and then get the X up out of here for the day. I'm Rob Brown. He's a great one, Lonzo. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Fan Upstate. Tommy, my bassist, texted me and said, make sure you start Echo early in the day. I said, why? He said, because I started it last night at like 9 p.m. with the intention of watching an episode and watched all 5 till 2:20 in the morning.
Yeah, there's never been anything that's got me to do
Really?
that. Yeah, I'm not. I have too much other stuff to do.
It's got to be great, but if it's great,
I mean, we might squeeze in 2, but that'll be it.
Montez Sweat became the first player in NFL history to lead 2 different teams in sacks during the same season. Posted 6.5 to lead the Commanders and 6 to lead the Bears. That is impressive.
I don't know if you'll know who some of the characters are, but I just sent you something on the X.
Is it the X or is it just X?
Well, when I say it, the is, it's a word for me. It's wrestling moves being done by action figures.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Cap taking the
Spider-Man's getting abused by everybody. Oh, and Mario.
couldn't let my man Spidey have a moment.
It's
It's pretty impressive, to be honest.
Bulma tearing up Darth Vader.
I like Vader taking the old Swiss swing with his lightsaber out.
That kind of thing sickens me because I wish I could do that. Because that's what I would do all day, is stuff like that. If I had that kind of know-how.
James said not mentioning the 2010 Chiefs. So disrespectful. Uh-oh. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just solidified a playoff run for the Kansas City Chiefs.
You know what you did? And if and when they go to the Super Bowl, I'm bringing out that promo that you did last summer.
I disrespected the Chiefs. They won the Super Bowl. Careful, ladies and gentlemen, with your Kansas City disrespect. All right, we got a few more minutes before we got to get up out of here for the day. Let's see here. What else? What haven't we gotten to yet? If you threaten people over violence, you're a loser. Draymond Green deserved a longer suspension, and it is an embarrassment to the NBA that you let this guy come back so soon. I was told the national championship game without an SEC team would suffer. Instead, it was the most watched Natty in 4 years. Oh, this is what I wanted to get to real quick, and we'll address this more further tomorrow. Yahoo Sports put up an article where they address some of the biggest names in coaching candidates across the NFL. They mentioned Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, Brian Flores, Dan Quinn, Raheem Morris, Mike McDonald, Ben Johnson, Frank Smith, Gerard Mayo, Bobby Slovic, Eric Bieniemy, Eric Glenn, all names that I gave you yesterday, some of which are on the interview request list for the Carolina Panthers, and some of which are not. And I found this interesting that of all these names, these are some of, not exclusively, but some of the biggest names that are coaching candidates for the head coaching jobs across the NFL in 2024. One of the things that Yahoo Sports did was they had a group of writers come together and make predictions of who would end up where. For instance, they are predicting that Jim Harbaugh will be coaching the LA Chargers next year, that Bill Belichick will be moving to Atlanta next year, that Brian Flores will be moving on and taking a new job next year. Let's see where they put Brian Flores. They said Brian Flores stays with the Vikings another year. He's a controversial name with the lawsuit against the NFL still in process. Dan Quinn. They believe Dan Quinn may, if Mike McCarthy loses in the wild card round, take Mike McCarthy's job with the Cowboys. Raheem Morris, they think he stays with the Rams. Mike McDonald moves to Chicago to replace Matt Eberflus. Ben Johnson, predicted next move, head coach of the Washington Commanders. Frank Smith, offensive coordinator, Miami Dolphins. They think he'll stay one more year. A lot of credit goes to Mike McDaniels for the offense there. They think he might stay and get one more year under his belt. Gerard Mayo, a name I brought up earlier this AM. His predicted move replaces Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Vrabel moves to New England and takes Bill Belichick's job. Bobby Slovic, predict that he stays with the Texans. Eric Bieniemy, their predicted next move for Eric Bieniemy, returns to the Chiefs as an assistant head coach and coach in waiting for Andy. Aaron Glenn, Detroit Lions, predicted move, one more year with the Lions before he moves on. One thing I find very interesting here is that I have been reading a lot of articles like this one, where they list out all the top name candidates and people are giving predictions. People from all walks of life in all parts of the country giving their predictions of who ends up coaching where next year. And you want to know, I don't know if you caught this while I was reading all of these predictions, Lonzo. I suspect you did.
The Carolina Panthers were not mentioned.
Bingo. I have not seen the Cats, despite their request to interview a number of the dudes on this list. I have not seen them as a projected or predicted landing spot by anyone for any of the top head coaching candidates around the National Football League. And I think, my friends, that says what it says, don't it?
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, let me see if I can get through this 2 minutes. All right, time to ask Rob what the X is going on. The first thing that's Xing is Peacock.
A lot of controversy because the Saturday night wild card game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins, to be played in -6 degrees and snow, because is exclusively streaming on Peacock, which means that many NFL fans have a choice to make right now. There are two options. Option number one, you can pay $6 for a 1-month subscription to Peacock and watch the game. Or number two,
outrageous,
you cannot watch the game, which is interesting because on one hand, if you are a psychopath that's entertained by boring, slow games in the snow on an ice-crusted field,
disrespectful,
then have a wonderful time.
By the way, if you are a person who doesn't have Peacock and you don't want to get Peacock, you can hear the game right here on the Fan Upstate Saturday night.
We got you covered. Point here is the NFL fans are very, very upset by the fact that they are making this game very difficult to access for fans. And let me once again remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that the NFL, and this is true, does not care because NBC is paying them a buttload of cash to have the exclusive rights to this game, and they are paying the NFL more than you are paying the NFL for the rights to that game. They don't care, and they know, more importantly, they got you by the hook. You ain't going nowhere.
I saw a Chiefs player is actually buying subscriptions for people. So, you know,
I mean, cool.
I don't know that it'll hook you up, but he might.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing that's Xing is Pat Benatar.
Really? First off, let me say, and I'm gonna hope that it's her birthday.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Pat Benatar's birthday is today. She is, I'm gonna stab in the dark here, 72.
71. And if you've seen her, looks good for 71.
She looks real good for 71. Still rocks and wrist. I mean, still abs. She's on tour, I think, still, right?
Possibly.
Like, I think she's still playing.
And her husband is the guitarist, and he still plays pretty well, too. And he's got to be of the same age. All right. And let's see. The next thing that's trending or Xing, is Eberflus.
So unless he has in the last few minutes been fired,
Everything I'm seeing is it looks like they're going to retain him.
I'm not shocked. They had a run down the stretch that built optimism. A and B.
Well, he can thank his quarterback if he keeps the gig.
Well, for sure, without a doubt, Justin Fields progressed to play better. I would also make the argument that the flip is true as well. I think Eberflus was also coaching better. I think they kind of worked some of the kinks out. It just took them way too long. I'm not shocked by it. I know a lot of Bears fans are going to be disappointed, but I'm not shocked by it because, hey, if the Bears carry the momentum they had at the back half of this season into the front half of next season, they're going to be step for step with the Lions. I actually, if you'd have told me 3 weeks ago this was going to happen, I'd have called you a psychopath.
Finally, the last thing that's Xing is Echo.
I will be watching at least 2 episodes today. I have been told by my buddy Tom that he started with the intent of watching 2. He watched all 5 last night. It's that good. I'm in. Gonna be great. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the show. We are out. We appreciate you hanging out. We appreciate you listening or watching if you're on the stream. We're back tomorrow to do it all over again, but better. We got Rashad Beer. We got Fight Club. It's all coming up on the Thursday edition of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Yeah!
Good night.
We did it. Yay.
Once again, Rob Brown carries me through another show, and I appreciate it. Did great. It's just I have no words. I have no words. I'm going to go stick tissues up my nose and just leave them there and try to do my work.
P Digits. Thank you, big dog. You're the best. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
I agree, Danny. Until he gets out of the way, nothing's going to matter. It is what it is, as the old expression goes. Man, thank you guys for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow. It's going to be, I think, better than today. So have a lovely day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Share us with your friends. Goodbye.